Chapter 1150. The babies were born, but the team couldn't go back immediately. They still had to wait for the Zhang clan to finish their confinement. The 4 babies also needed time to adapt. Although babies had a higher chance of surviving in extreme environments than adults, that was overdrafting their vitality. When the telegram was sent back, Zhang Zhong and Wang Wan's father were very happy, but they couldn't come to visit in person. The 2 of them had been busy with the Ministry of Works, and they emphasized the safety of production and development and the safety of the guards. Similarly happy were a group of officials led by the Minister of Revenue, Wang Bei, who were unfriendly to the Zhang clan. When they found out that the Zhang clan's 2 pregnant women were also going to the place where the emperor was going, they were furious. It was obvious that the emperor needed to wait for the babies to be born before returning. They didn't want the emperor to go out in the first place. If it was in the past, it would be easier. Going to such a distant place was a waste of money and manpower. Moreover, important matters in the capital couldn't be reported in time. The officials would coax the emperor together. If the emperor really wanted to go out, he could only stroll around Jiangxi province. At this moment, neither of the 2 excuses were valid. The emperor didn't need the financial funds of the imperial court to go out, and he didn't even need to use the palace treasury. That damn Zhang Xiaobao took care of everything. He could be said to be rich and overbearing. He supported a team of more than 30,000 people, without even frowning. There was also the supply team behind, which required at least 50,000 people. Based on the calculation that each person spent at least 100 copper coins a day, that was 5,000 strings of coins. 150,000 strings of coins a month. If there were special circumstances, they would have to pay extra. With so much money, how many merchants would be scared to death in the Great Tang? If it was in Japan, it would be more than half a year's income. This was because Japan was doing business with the Great Tang. Otherwise, Japan wouldn't be able to get 3 million strings of coins a year. They wouldn't be able to do it even if they worked themselves to death. How much did the Great Tang get in a year? However, Zhang Xiaobao didn't care. He traveled all the way, solved all kinds of hidden problems, and dealt with Japan in passing. Wang Bei really wanted to impeach Zhang Xiaobao. The reason was that Zhang Xiaobao spent so much money. Wouldn't it be better if he spent it on the people? Was 150,000 strings of coins a month a joke? Why should it be spent by Zhang Xiaobao? Halfway through the memorial, Wang Bei realized that Zhang Xiaobao was not spending the imperial court's money. He was spending his own money. That's right. He didn't know when he started to think that the money of the Zhang family and Wang family was the imperial court's money. Who asked these 2 families to always take out money to provide research for the Ministry of Works and the Sitong Temple? Who asked them to always transport things to disaster areas at the fastest speed? Who asked them to? Anyway, it's their way of doing things. They give people the impression that it's easy to get money from them to help the Great Tang. It's their fault. Yes, it's their fault. Wang Bei selectively forgot the grievances in his heart and pushed all the blame onto the Zhang family and the Wang family. Husband, who made you angry this time? While Wang Bei was struggling, his wife came in with hot soup. She heard the noise and asked with concern. It's the Zhang family and the Wang family. They came to Luzhou to give birth to a child, and they actually delayed His Majesty in the south in the name of the child. They're harming the country. The child has just been born, but he's already started to harm our dynasty. What will happen when he grows up? They're a family of villains. Humph. Wang Bei blamed the baby. When he lowered his head and saw the soup sent by his wife, he asked, "What's the soup?" "It's the flying dragon soup made of birds sent from the northern part of Hebei province. They said it's delicious and nutritious, so I made an extra bowl and sent it here," Wang Bei's wife replied. "Oh, they're kind enough to send something to my family? Didn't they stop all the benefits before?" Wang Bei sneered. "It's all because Qing is pregnant. Her body is weak, and the doctor gave her a prescription, saying that the flying dragon soup is suitable. So the Zhang family sent this bird, saying that the political views of the adults are different, and it has nothing to do with the child. They also said that the child is never wrong. It's too despicable to put the grudge on the child. And the Zhang family and the Wang family disdained to do it. Wang Bei's wife explained that Qing was the eldest daughter-in-law, and she had been pregnant for 7 months. Wang Bei's face turned red when he heard this. Just now, he had accused the other family's child of harming the country and the people. Then, his wife gave such an answer. He felt that his face had been slapped more than 200 times. It was burning hot. Who was the gentleman and who was the villain? As a minister, Wang Bei had trained his face to be thick-skinned. He immediately calmed down and said to his wife, "Put it down. I'll think about the heavy snow again. The Ministry of Revenue is going to allocate money again, at least part of it." After his wife left, Wang Bei took a deep breath and murmured, "They want to bribe me with small favors. I forget it. I don't want to speak ill of people behind their backs." No matter how thick-skinned Wang Bei was, he knew that he was in the wrong. It was not good for him to say anything more about this matter. He carefully looked around, afraid that he would be discovered. If it was leaked, once it was reported, he would be drowned in the spittle of the people of Tang. Fortunately, the emperor was coming back, and it was a happy thing. Another thing that made the officials of the capital happy was that the first generation of diesel engines had been finalized. They had invested money in it, and there was no return yet. The first generation of diesel engines was finalized, and 10 diesel engines were produced, and they were distributed according to the streets. The back of the hand-guided tractor was modified to have many seats, and it was used to transport the officials who invested in it to and from work. The speed was not very fast, and it was slower than the speed of the carriage. It was very bumpy, and smoke was coming out of it. However, the officials who were qualified to ride it did not care. Instead, they were proud of it. The main reason was that others did not have it. No matter how smoky the tractor was when the wind was against them, it was also a symbol of status. Who cared whether they could breathe or not? They could only watch, and they did not know how it felt to sit on a tractor. Do you know how it felt to sit on a carriage that did not require a horse or a person? The smell of the smoke coming out of the carriage was so invigorating, and it made one's breath stronger, especially when the wind was against them. Even if one was rich, one would not be able to experience it. Therefore, the 10 tractors made the investing officials feel better, and they felt that the money was well spent, even if the money for the diesel engines was paid out of their dividends and investments. When Li Longji heard about this, he found Zhang Xiaobao and asked if it was possible to ride a tractor on the way back. However, he was strongly opposed by Zhang Xiaobao. "Your Majesty, it's not possible. It's winter now, and the wind is basically from the north, northwest, and northeast. If we go back, there will be many opportunities to face the wind. The carriage is too small, and the thermal insulation is not perfect. Even if we extend the exhaust pipe and put it at the back of the carriage, we will not be able to smell the exhaust. The small carriage is not comfortable. Your Majesty, this is not a good thing." Xiaobao told the truth. He would rather take a boat than a tractor. Being on a boat was not a big deal. After all, he had many yachts in the past. Even if he had an antique car, the antique car was not a tractor. It was a Rolls-Royce that was more than 200 years old. It could still drive at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. It was a symbol of status. What was the point of driving a tractor? Workers, peasants, and soldiers? Wang Wan felt that it was reasonable. She also had an old car, but she would never drive a tractor, which was a symbol of workers, peasants, and soldiers. Workers, peasants, and soldiers sounded good, but they were worthless. In a country, officials were the most respectable. Although the slogan sounded good, it was a lie to say that the working class was the leader and the workers' and peasants' alliance was the foundation. There was no democracy. It was a master-slave relationship. The simplest example was that many people in Beijing did not say that they were from Beijing. They said that they were from Suzhou City. The architecture was from the Ming Dynasty, but most people said that it was changed from the Qing Dynasty. If they were not slaves, then what were they? Of course, slaves were a positive term in the Qing Dynasty, but later on, if you called others slaves, they would definitely not be happy. If you did not believe it, you could try it. See how many people would scold you for being crazy, and how many people would directly hit you. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan knew the advantages and disadvantages of a tractor, but Li Longji did not. When he heard Zhang Xiaobao's words and saw Wang Wan's expression of agreement, he was very disappointed. "Can I take a tractor back?" Li Longji asked one last time. "Your Majesty, tractors are most suitable for farming. Anyway, they are bumpy." "Your Majesty, do you know why they are called tractors?" "Because they are powered by a diesel engine, and they move forward by dragging. The shock absorption is not good, and it is not a trailer-type caravan. Can I make a better one for you in the future?" In order not to be implicated, Zhang Xiaobao had to try his best to persuade him. If it was someone else who tried to persuade him, Li Longji would definitely not believe it. However, he had to treat Xiaobao and Cuckoo seriously. After thinking for a while, Li Longji finally gave up and said, "Okay, but what is a caravan?" "Uncle Emperor, I know. It is our house. The one that was made of agarwood in the past, and now it is for my younger brother and sister to use. The one with mercury dynamic balance. It can also float on water. That is the only dynamic balance in the Tang Dynasty. Until now, there has not been a second one. My brother and sister have done a lot for us." Xiao Bei immediately followed up and gestured as he spoke. Li Longji suddenly remembered. Other people would provide their children with comfortable carriages, many people to look after them, or a large courtyard like the imperial family. However, he did not expect that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would give their younger brothers and sisters a moving house. Moreover, that house was on land and had a mercury pressure converter under it. As long as the car could go up or down, the house would remain stable. This was the mercury dynamic balance. Until now, there had not been a second one. It was not that they could not make it, but that the investment was too big and not worth it. However, the two of them thought that it was worth it. Just like the first delivery room, Xiao Bei and the others could laugh proudly at the world just because of this. "When will our caravan appear?" Li Longji asked with jealousy. "Wait until the gasoline engine is perfected. Shock absorption is a problem. The 5 methods are not ideal." Zhang Xiaobao was troubled. What he meant by not ideal was that it could not reach his level, not even half of it. Which 5? Li Longji really did not know that there were so many shock absorption methods. Spring plate, shock absorption material, air pressure, and hydraulic pressure. We can only use the first 2. The third one is still in the process of being chosen. Wang Wan replied. Chapter 1151. The 10 tractors in the capital ran back and forth every day. The officials who had spent money sat in the bumpy tractors, but they were all calm. The people were not jealous. If they were jealous, they were envious of the officials. Officials could enjoy good things, but they were curious about this new thing. How could it move? They wondered if it was different from a train. In any case, the head in front of the train was very big, and the head in front of them was smaller than the head in front of the train. The rich people looked knowledgeable and said to the people around them, "This is a miniature train. Can't you see that it's smoking? This is a great improvement in Tang's industrial technology. It's free from the constraints of the railway and will be used for transportation in the future. When the officials are done experimenting, I'll buy a few for you to see." A month passed peacefully with various small matters in Tang. After finishing her confinement, Jiang Wang clan and Liu Bei boarded the ship under the reluctance of the people in Luzhou. They set off for the capital along the coast. Xiao Bei and the other 11 children set off 3 days in advance to look for the Si Chao in Chuanzhou and check his work record. The main problem was not that he wasted food. The main problem was that he was exposed. According to Xiao Bei, if the other party said something bad about others, they would tell them that there were only those who were not caught, not those who were wrongly accused. If you only wasted food, they would not punish you. However, if you made a big mistake in your work, then don't think of running away. Tang lacked many things, but it did not lack officials. Many people were waiting to fill the position. While waiting for the large group of people behind them, Xiao Bei and the others looked regretful. "What's wrong?" You didn't find anything wrong? Li Longji teased Xiao Bei and asked. Xiao Bei shook his head and sighed regretfully. He said, I found the problem in his work. It's easy to find an official's mistake. Did you catch him? Li Longji was not clear about the situation in Chuanzhou. He was very curious. Xiao Bei shook his head again. No, he has a special understanding of the management of the warehouse, and he did a very good job. At the same time, his work efficiency is so high that it's frightening. We did some research and found that after he was removed, we need at least 5 officials to replace his workload. His warehouse losses were the least, his error rate was the smallest, his material turnover was the most flexible, and the speed of goods entering and leaving was the fastest. He had a wealth of experience in dealing with emergencies. On average, he could embezzle 5,000 strings of cash in half a year, but the method he came up with to store the materials and the coordination of the flow of materials in the warehouse saved him 60,000 strings of cash every half a year. After Li Longji finished listening to Xiao Bei's introduction, he was also stunned. What kind of person was this? He had a lot of abilities, but he also had a lot of problems. He was indeed very difficult to deal with. If they had investigated him with the intention of capturing him, they would naturally have captured him. However, Xiao Bei's group of children wouldn't go so far as to capture him for the sake of capturing him, just like the one who had made the steam engine. So you're saying that you've returned empty-handed? Li Longji asked with a smile. Xiao Bei also smiled and said, No, we have investigated the county magistrate of Chuanzhou's Nanning County. We plan to replace him and transfer him to Luoyang to be a registrar. Li Longji was stunned once again. What nonsense was this? The person who should have been investigated had not been thoroughly investigated, and another person had been arrested. If there was something wrong with the arrested county magistrate, why didn't they deal with him? If there was nothing wrong with him, why did they have to remove him? It wasn't just Li Longji. Other than Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, everyone else in the cabin was confused. Empress Wang beckoned to Xiao Bei and pulled him over. She hugged him and asked, Was the county magistrate of Nanning County corrupt, or did he take bribes? None of them. He's too innocent. His family is poor, but his 3 children's bodies are still okay. His 2 elders and his 3 wives are all sallow and emaciated. His own clothes are also covered in patches. Xiao Bei replied, If that's the case, why did you remove him from his post? Empress Wang asked again. Because he's stupid. His 3 children are in good health because they are still in school. The food in school is good, while the others are poor. It's fine if his family doesn't have money, but the commoners in the county aren't doing well. That's a county very close to the port. Back then, we were in full service. Then, the quick-witted people in the county came out to earn money and didn't return. They directly settled down in Jinjiang Prefecture and invested money to build schools in their hometowns. When we found out about this situation and found him, he actually had the face to tell us that he had a clear conscience. Little Yuan said that if we were officials here, not to mention the current situation, even if this county was 10 times richer, we would still commit suicide out of shame. Who arranged for him to come here? He's too hateful. Therefore, we had a meeting to discuss it. He's more suited to stay in a prosperous place and isn't suited for development. He should go to Luoyang to be a registrar. It's a flat transfer, but he doesn't have much real power. Following Xiao Bei's words, the other children lowered their heads and sighed. Even Pan, and her brother followed suit. In other words, you let go of someone who violated the laws of our great Tang, but stripped a county magistrate of his power who couldn't find fault with the law. Empress Wang concluded. Xiao Bei nodded gloomily. That's right. A person who made a mistake created more value. What he was greedy for was just a small amount. A person who didn't make a mistake cheated an entire county. According to the story told by my brother and sister, the officials don't fear my strictness, but fear my integrity. The people don't submit to my ability, but submit to my justice. The people don't dare to be slow on their feet, and the honest officials don't dare to bully them. The public gives rise to brightness, and the honest gives rise to prestige. This means that integrity and notarization are very important, because the people want to be rich, but their demands are boundless. The officials want to be rich, but their actions are insatiable. This means that there is no end to people's pursuit. Whether it's the people or the officials, who has less than they have and more than they have. Then what about the 100,000 collisions? Desire is boundless, so fairness and integrity are the most important. Following this, we should thoroughly investigate the official, demote him, and praise the county magistrate. That's because there is no definition of wealth. Only when you compare yourself with others can you know whether you are rich or poor, right? Everyone nodded. Xiao Bei's grandfather, maternal grandfather, Wang Ju, was so shocked that he sucked in a cold breath. What kind of knowledge was this? His own family's child could actually be so arrogant. If this spread out, how many scholars in the world would blush with shame? Wang Ju took a few deep breaths and asked his maternal granddaughter, "Then why did you still take care of the county magistrate behind us?" "That's right, why?" Xiao Bei repeated and said, "Because there is another saying, when the country is rich, the people come from afar. When the land is expanded, the people stay. When the granary is solid, etiquette is known. When the food and clothing are sufficient, honor and disgrace is known. You are an official, you are honest and fair. This is your own matter. If the people's lives are not good, they will only submit to you. Will the officials submit to you? If they submit to you, they will not know etiquette. If they submit to you, they will not know honor and disgrace. In fact, this is not wrong. The problem is that you are not Uncle Emperor. Uncle Emperor is fair and honest, but you are a county magistrate. Your parents are officials, and your children are starving to death. What are you? What are you? What are you? You watched your children cry piteously for food starved to death. Do you dare to pat your chest and say that you have a clear conscience? He also said that the world was bustling with activity, all for profit. The world was bustling with activity, all for profit. Everyone wanted to live a good life. At least they had clothes to wear and food to eat. It was very difficult to make them rebel. We had a day of meetings for this matter. In the end, we came up with a reason. It is not wrong to be fair and honest, but it must be on the basis that the people have enough to eat and wear. Since the two cannot coexist in Xuanzhou, we can only choose the survival instinct of human nature. Thus, we came to the conclusion that we should warn the officials and transfer the county magistrate. We were also helpless, but we decided to do this because we have a clear conscience. Piak, 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 piak. At this moment, applause sounded. Even the eunuchs and palace maids clapped. The other children lowered their heads in embarrassment, but Xiao Bei held her fist and bowed modestly. She had a diplomatic personality. Ha ha! Li Longji laughed heartily and praised. Good, you are indeed worthy of being my Tang Dynasty's inspector. Even if you are unwilling in your heart, you are willing to take the people of Tang as your root. I will not say right or wrong. I only recognize the result. Transfer the county magistrate away. Chapter 1152. On the second day, after Li Longji returned to the capital, a large court meeting was held. All the fifth-rank officials in the capital had to line up at Hanyuan Hall. Light snow was still falling, but there was no snow under the steps of Hanyuan Hall. The snow that had fallen before had long been cleared out. There were even hot water pipes under the steps, which was geothermal. It was a benefit for officials. The officials had been very busy recently. There were many things to do at the end of the year. After this period, it would be the New Year holiday in a few days. They could spend the New Year with their families. The busiest person in the crowd was the Minister of Revenue, Wang Bei. In the past half a month, he had already worked 6 extra nights at the Ministry of Revenue. He was always busy until dawn, so naturally, he couldn't go home. He had lost a few kilograms, but his spirit was good. He had money now. Except for the last month, which needed to be calculated in January of next year, all the tax data for the first half of the year had been sorted out. Wang Qing, have you calculated the taxes for the 11th month of this year? Li Longji had just arrived at Hanyuan Palace Hall and had just sat down when he impatiently asked about the money. Wang Bei glanced at Zhang Zhong beside him. He was in a good mood. He thought that the emperor would ask about the Ministry of Works first, but he didn't expect that he would ask about his own Ministry of Revenue. Money was really important. Zhang Zhong glanced at Wang Bei from the corner of his eyes, but didn't respond. Money was nothing. Don't mention money to me. It's meaningless. Wang Bei clearly felt Zhang Zhong's contempt. He secretly cursed, "I'll make you lose all your business tomorrow." Then he stepped out of the line. He was holding a ceremonial tablet in his hand. It was different from the original rectangular one. It was 1 foot long and 1 foot wide. There was a clip on one end and a small slot on the far right. A pencil was stuck in the slot, and under the pencil was a piece of rubber. On top of the ceremonial tablet was a piece of paper. It was actually a clamp board for office use. It kept pace with the times and was not as inconvenient as before. Your Majesty, according to the statistics of the Ministry of Revenue, the total tax collected in the first 11 months of this year was 669,622 strings of coins and 400 strings of coins. The expenditure in the first 11 months was 106 million strings of coins. As of yesterday, the Treasury had a total of 792,150 strings of coins and 316 copper coins. After Wang Bei finished reading from the book, he puffed out his chest and raised his head, as if he was the one who earned the money. The eyes of all the civil and military officials lit up. Wang Bei glanced at Zhang Zhong proudly. He could estimate the annual income of the Zhang family and the Wang family. Unless the other party evaded taxes, it would be clear to calculate based on the taxes they paid. The income of the Zhang family and the Wang family this year was 4 million strings less than last year. The only thing that could not be accounted for was the precious candy house, which was a tax-free industry. The other thing that could not be accounted for was the income of the Great Tang Private Bank. The Great Tang Private Bank was owned by the emperor, and it was also taxed. However, the tax was not accurately reported, and the difference in interest rates between the reporting of losses and the collection of payments had to be deducted. Obviously, there was a lot of money involved, and it was His Majesty who ordered it. How could anyone know how much money His Majesty had? Furthermore, there were many expenses that could not be accounted for, such as the cost of espionage. Which official was qualified to know how much the emperor had spent on his espionage system? The Zhang family and the Wang family were probably hiding the same thing, but just like His Majesty, there was no way to investigate. This was because Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had sent many spies abroad, and they could not afford to spend less. But no matter what, the normal tax return was indeed lower than last year. It was just that they had not found the time to investigate why. Zhang Zhong still ignored Wang Bei. He could guess what Wang Bei was thinking. Wasn't it just that the income today was lower? That was right. Otherwise, the Great Tang would not have so much money. A portion of the family's money was used to expand the private army, especially in the area of weapons. Whether it was the improvement of weapons or the consumption of ammunition, they were all money. After all, they were going to war, so they had to have more reserves. Seated not too far away, Li Longji saw Wang Bei's actions, but he didn't care. The main reason was that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't care. All right, our court will be able to do many things next year. All departments, calculate the budget for your work so that we can allocate more money. In a good mood, Li Longji began to distribute the money. Your Majesty, there's something that this subject doesn't understand. Why is our tax return double compared to last year? A young general from the Bureau of Military Personnel, who used to be a border guard and had only been promoted last month due to his outstanding performance in the military sandbox examination, mustered up his courage and stood up to ask. A few days ago, he heard from others that last year's income was 130 million strings of cash, and he knew that it was easy for the sudden increase in income to become worthless. For the sake of his brothers in the military, He had to ask. As soon as he spoke, he realized that the entire Hanyuan palace was silent, and he couldn't help but feel even more worried. After a few moments of silence, Li Longji looked at the officials below and softly sighed. He turned on the microphone and said to Zhang Juling, "Official Zhang, you speak." Zhang Juling's expression was very unnatural. Back then, his family was in Guangzhou, and that place produced preserved vegetables. His family had also been involved in the business, and in the first half of the year, the officials still had the income from the land as their salary. Now that he had handed over the land, he naturally had less of an excuse to sell his family's produce. However, his family's business didn't stop, and they continued to sell preserved vegetables, earning quite a bit of money. Now that His Majesty had called out his name, Zhang Juling had no choice but to stand up. He looked at the faces of the other officials, and they all lowered their heads and entered a meditative state. "Yang Zwufeng, this matter is very simple," Zhang Juling loudly said to the military official who had asked the question. This person was surnamed Yang, a member of the Imperial Guard of the Left. He used to be in the Thousand Bull Manor, and the authority of this official had been very small for a period of time. Now that the military service system had been changed and the Great Tang's economic strength had increased, more military power was required to maintain this position. The military official surnamed Yang said nothing, continuing to listen attentively. "Listen to me, one by one." Zhang Juling took a deep breath and organized his words. "Last year, the tax rate of our dynasty was set low, and the official salary was more based on the output of the land. This year, His Majesty was wise and went out to inspect the land road construction. Along the way, he heard the advice of a capable official and changed the tax rate of our dynasty and the official salary. As for the tax, the commercial side has increased by nearly 5 times. During the trial period, there are not too many people who are willing to pay the tax. In addition, the officials are getting their salaries. While they spend their money, they also promote the flow of goods and materials, which forms a part of the tax. Therefore, our dynasty's revenue has increased. Furthermore, after many years of hard work, the Agriculture Temple has distributed a large number of crop seeds this spring, and the output of the land has increased significantly. This year, there are no major events around the dynasty, and the people are living in peace. The livestock production has also increased." Zhang Juling forced himself to finish his words and kept wiping his sweat. The military official surnamed Yang raised his head and rolled his eyes. He thought for a while and nodded, admitting that this would increase the tax rate. When all the merchants in Great Tang agreed, it wouldn't be a problem to double the tax rate. "Oh, I know. But I don't know which capable official it is. Can he make a decision in the court? What if he goes on a business trip?" The military official surnamed Yang was serious. Who would be so awesome as to directly influence His Majesty's decisions? Zhang Juling glared at him. "General Yang, who do you think it is?" "Oh, I am not too sure. I won't ask. The person who came up with this plan is truly capable. Your Majesty is wise." The military official surnamed Yang guessed who it was in just a few breaths' time. He was clearly not confident enough. "You know how to be afraid of the contempt of all the officials?" Li Longji didn't mention the names of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. In any case, officials of a certain rank would know who could easily influence Great Tang's decisions. Next topic. Li Longji leaned back and waited. He didn't feel comfortable with the increased tax rate. He was exchanging benefits. The railways in the country hadn't been fully connected yet, and the trains hadn't been fully delivered yet. The carriages for the steam engines had already been distributed, and the salaries of the officials were more than 2 times higher than the current income of the farmland. If not for Xiaobao's astounding calculations, which would change the railway transportation system and make the land more valuable, I would have been angered to death this time. Li Longji thought as he looked at the officials in the court with an unfriendly gaze. How many officials didn't have private property? When it came to disaster relief, no one was willing to fork out money. But when it came to investing in the Ministry of Works, there was already money. This was especially So after the tractor carried the investment officials around the streets of the capital. Why weren't you all so enthusiastic when the national treasury was low? In Xiaobao's words, it was because your table manners were too unsightly. It's good that you all took out 100 strings of coins to pretend that I can't deal with you all. Why don't you all invest? I'll get Xiaobao to deal with you all. While Li Longji was thinking about how to take revenge on the officials, the topics in the court were passed one after another without any hindrance. The national treasury was rich, and many of the topics were about money. The wealthy Li Longji felt that any problem that could be solved with money wasn't a problem at all. When it was almost noon, Li Longji realized something. No one mentioned anything about Great Tang's infrastructure. There was a solution for the railways, but what about the roads? It wasn't a good thing to have too much spare money in the national treasury. It would depreciate. Thus, he looked at Zhang Zhong and asked, Minister Zhang, does the Ministry of Works have any topics to discuss? Zhang Zhong shook his head and said, Your Majesty, the Ministry of Works doesn't lack money now. The Ministry of Works has produced many new chemical products. Other than the research costs, we still have some surplus. For example, soap, toothpaste, fertilizer, and kerosene lamps are selling well. There are also candles and shoes with rubber soles. As he spoke, Zhang Zhong finally looked at Wang Bei. Last year, the Ministry of Works needed money for its research and was severely hindered by the Ministry of Revenue. His son and daughter-in-law were furious and took revenge on the other party. However, in the end, it was better to rely on oneself than to rely on others. According to his son, their technology wasn't good enough, so they could only use the local method to produce. It wasted a lot of resources and caused a lot of pollution. However, during special times, they had to treat it differently. Wang Bei lowered his head and looked at the document. He was very engrossed and didn't know what good story was written in it. What about the roads and infrastructure? Li Longji ignored the conflict between the officials and asked about the things he wanted to know the most. As for the roads, this official is still waiting for the officials to report. Once the reports are completed, this official can withdraw the funds from the Ministry of Revenue. The Ministry of Revenue will review the funds and then allocate the funds through the Great Tang Bank. Zhang Zhong answered truthfully. Li Longji nodded. Yes, the money needed to be paid by the Ministry of Revenue or by him or the head of the Secretariat. Although it was said that the Ministry of Works should be in charge, the Ministry of Works didn't have any real authority in the area of infrastructure. The Ministry of Revenue could bypass the Ministry of Works and directly negotiate with the local officials about the allocation of funds. Of course, the Ministry of Works could also bypass the Ministry of Revenue and directly allocate funds to the local construction management department. This was because the Ministry of Works had its own money. It was just that Zhang Zhong didn't allocate the funds. Li Longji's expression became serious as he said to Wang Bei, Next year should be a special year for transportation. We don't want to see key supplies blocked because of money. This official understands, Wang Bei replied loudly. In his heart, he looked down on Zhang Zhong even more. The other party was too immoral to point him out and let the emperor give him a warning. Chapter 1153. After the court session, I will send a report to the officials in charge of construction and order them to send over the documents required by the local government. I will definitely lead the officials of the Ministry of Revenue to examine them carefully. After Wang Ku agreed, he added another sentence. The other officials understood what Wang Bei meant. He wanted his subordinates to ask for money directly from the Ministry of Revenue. When it came to construction, the Ministry of Revenue could intervene. The environment was different, so the price of the materials for building bridges and paving roads was naturally different. It was difficult to determine how much a cart of stones was worth. The most reasonable price for the Tang Dynasty was naturally the Zhengzheng construction group of the Zhang family and the Wang family. However, it was unable to monopolize all the businesses. At the same time, because it was too reasonable, some people did not intend to use it. If the price was reasonable, there would be no extra money to bribe. Thinking that Wang Bei could gain many benefits from this, some of the officials started to get jealous. The main reason was that the money invested in the new group of Ministry of Works had been lost this year. The only gain was sitting in a very bumpy car during work and off work. Zhang Zhong had taken out the accounts for them to look at. The records were very clear. The sales were good, especially for toothpaste and soap. Besides being in charge of sales, the group was also in charge of research and development. The problem was research and development. The group did not research and develop the toothpaste and soap that they sold. Instead, they bought the products from another department of the Ministry of Works. The purchase price was very high. The reason was that the development of toothpaste and soap had cost a lot. The new group did not research the products that they sold. Instead, they researched the application technology of diesel engines, such as tractors and generators. At night, all the roads in the capital had electric lights. This technology was first bought from the Ministry of Works, and then redesigned to consume less diesel. However, after generating electricity, they did not earn money. This was because the new group did not produce diesel engines and did not have diesel, let alone electric wires and lights. They had to buy them. Thus, another problem arose. Who would pay for the lighting of the various roads in Chang, and at night? They did not care about the people walking on the road, nor the shops along the road. They could only pay for it. The finance took out money for the new group. The new group calculated the price of each kilowatt-hour of electricity and bought the electricity meters made by the Ministry of Works. They installed them for the rich families free of charge. Otherwise, they would not use them. It all seemed quite reasonable. After the calculation of the electricity price was done, there was a problem when it was used. The generator had to continuously generate electricity, but the electricity it generated was not always used. This resulted in a situation where the supply exceeded the demand, and the generator lost money. In a situation where investment and output were not proportional, the money spent on selling toothpaste, soap, and rubber-soled shoes was made up to maintain a balance. This was the result of the Ministry of Works kindly leasing the power grid. When the new group laid the power grid, they did not have enough money to buy the wires from the Ministry of Works, so they could only borrow money from the Tang Bank. Now, the new group's power generation plant and power grid were leased to the Ministry of Works. The money received and the profits from selling other products could be used to repay the loan from the bank. The only consolation was that they had a car to take to and from work. The officials who did not understand the details still followed the trend and invested money. Even those who had invested money before had no choice but to continue to invest money. Investing money could still maintain the operation of the group and wait for the day when they earned money to receive dividends. If they did not invest, they would go bankrupt. It was equivalent to drinking poison to quench thirst. Everyone was not rich, so they were naturally jealous of Wang Bei's intervention in the construction of the local fortifications. They all started to plan how to get benefits from this. Li Longji, who was sitting at the top, also knew about the little schemes of the officials below, but he could not do anything about it. He looked at Zhang Zhong and wanted to see if Zhang Zhong would object. The others who were with Wang Bei were worried that Zhang Zhong would seize power, so they watched Zhang Zhong with Li Longji. Unexpectedly, Zhang Zhong actually nodded and agreed. That's fine. Minister Wang will lead the colleagues in the Ministry of Revenue to work hard. A small portion of people were relieved, but the majority were puzzled. Was Zhang Zhong stupid? Didn't his son, Zhang Xiaobao, tell him about the inner workings? You really agreed? Wang Bei couldn't believe that things would go so smoothly, so he asked in surprise. Of course. Oh, speaking of repairing bridges and roads, I just thought of something. My Ministry of Works has recently come up with a new model. According to the different environments, there are different inspection methods and construction materials used. If it's hot, we'll use cement, and if it's cold, we'll use asphalt. Each region can purchase the materials from the Ministry of Works, and will examine them according to the actual conditions of the ground. Zhang Zhong said seriously. Wang Bei exclaimed in surprise. If they followed Zhang Zhong's words, they would not be able to cut corners once they were examined. With the Ministry of Works keeping an eye on them, who would dare to do such a thing? Can't we not use cement and asphalt? Sure, but the ratio of service life to price has to be similar to that of cement and asphalt. Let me tell your Majesty a piece of good news. This year, my Ministry of Works has produced more than 3,000 diesel engines, and under the guidance of Regional Governor Zhang and Deputy Regional Governor Wang, we've turned them into small road rollers. Zhang Zhong still had a serious expression on his face. Wang Bei faintly felt that something was wrong. He swallowed and said, "The road rollers are used to flatten the road." Minister Wang is indeed amazing. You guessed correctly. Zhang Zhong raised his thumb and gestured at Wang Bei. This road roller is easy to use. It uses iron rollers as the wheels. Due to the problem with the diesel engine's power, it can't be made too big. However, it's definitely not a problem to flatten a normal road. For example, if there are layers of stones and sand, it's too strenuous to push the rollers with human and animal strength. Once the road roller goes up, the road will be flat. For example, one section of the road is not made of good stones, and the other section is made of good stones. After the road roller goes over, you can see that the road is uneven. It's very interesting. Interesting. This is a good thing. Li Longji praised. Wang Bei was dumbfounded. If they were to do it according to Zhang Zhong's words, how could they cut corners? Normally, when they were building roads, they could just put some crop stalks under the sand. It was impossible to flatten it with human strength, but once the road roller went up, a large part of the road would be dented. Minister Zhang, is the cost of using the road roller very high? I'm afraid that the place can't afford to use it. Wang Bei wanted to stop it. It's free. There's too much oil produced this year. There's almost no place to put diesel, gasoline, asphalt, and so on. Because it's not easy to store liquefied gas. It's used to generate electricity when it's produced. It's just nice that it's connected to the power grid. Zhang Zhong said to Li Longji with a smile. Wang Bei's eyes widened. He angrily asked, "Since there's no place to put diesel, why is it so expensive to sell it to our new group?" "Because the production cost is high." Zhang Zhong stopped smiling and answered honestly, "Since the production cost is high, why are you giving the road roller to others for free?" Wang Bei asked again. "Because it can't be put down." Zhang Zhong explained. Wang Bei blinked. "If it can't be put down, why not let the new group use it for free? That's a commercial action. A commercial action considers cost and profit. It's the Ministry of Works' function to provide for infrastructure construction. It considers the people's livelihood. If there's a fee, it should be paid by the government. Then, it should be supplemented by the tax revenue generated by the increase in trade. The problem is your Ministry of Revenue giving my Ministry of Works money? Actually, I'm sacrificing a department's income to promote long-term tax revenue for your Ministry of Revenue. This is the contribution of the entire Ministry of Works officials, technicians, and production staff. When Zhang Zhong spoke, he raised his head 45 degrees to look at the sky. His expression was so heroic, so great, and so touching. Then let me ask. You all have been contributing. Where did your money come from? Wang Bei did not think that Zhang Zhong's Ministry of Work staff were wronged at all. Burning newspapers at the grave, that was a lie. Zhang Zhong raised his sleeve and wiped his eyes. He lowered his head and said softly, "We're working with other commercial groups. Not everyone can use electric lights. Candles and kerosene lamps are much simpler. As for paraffin, you can't do without it. As long as oil is processed, it will appear. It's very annoying, so we just make it and sell it." In other words, your Ministry of Works and the commercial group you're working with have been making money. Why is it that the group we invested in has no money to make and is always on the verge of losing money? We have no choice but to continue investing in order to not let it go bankrupt. You just said that your liquefied gas power generation is connected to the power grid. Is that the power grid of our group? Did you give us dividends for the money you sold? If I remember correctly, The new group is the first industry that your son participated in that lost money, right? Your Majesty, your investment has also gone down the drain. Wang Bei finally caught Zhang Zhong's weakness. As the emperor had taken out the most money, he had to mention it. Li Longji waved his hand indifferently. I don't care. Wang Bei was speechless. He could only stare at Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong sighed and said, yes, it means that my son Xiao Bao is not completely invincible. There are times when he fails. The group's losses are accounted for. I didn't embezzle. The power grid is rented by the Ministry of Works. The liquefied gas power generation is not collected from the grid. Moreover, it is connected to the grid, but it doesn't directly generate profits from electricity. Instead, the Ministry of Works continues to invest in the capital to improve the power grid. Perhaps this year's Spring Festival will see results. I can prove that Minister Zhang is right. Li Bai, the director of the Ministry of Revenue, stepped forward and agreed. He had just been promoted a month ago. He was 5th rank and could stand in court. Even though he was busy with work, he still persisted in publishing a book of poetry and made a lot of money. You go to the side. Wang Bei glared at the immortal poet and asked Zhang Zhong, since he can't make money, why did the Ministry of Works connect the liquefied gas power generation to the grid? Where did the electricity go? We have so much liquefied gas that we can't use it all up. Of course, we have to use it to generate electricity. We also sell some of it to people who don't like to burn firewood, coal, and methane. We can't sell the electricity, so we use it to pump water. We built a big reservoir on the mountain in the eastern suburbs of the capital. There used to be only a few streams there, but now it has become a lake. Zhang Zhong pointed to the east and explained to Wang Bei. He then turned to Li Longji and said, Your Majesty, with that artificial lake, we can generate some electricity when there is no electricity. When there is a shortage of water, we can use the water to irrigate. It is winter now, and there is ice on the surface. Many people go there to skate. Plus, we have fish, so the income is not bad. Good, very good. We don't waste resources, Li Longji praised. Wang Bei couldn't take it anymore. He raised his voice and asked, Minister Zhang, you are using the power grid to make money. Why do you say that there is no profit? Where are the dividends of the group? When we make money, we also spend money. We break even, Zhang Zhong replied confidently. How do you spend the money? Wang Bei asked again. You need land to build the lake, but you don't need to spend money on the land. Zhang Zhong asked back. Who owns that land? Wang Bei asked again. The Ministry of Works. Zhang Zhong's voice wasn't soft either. Your Ministry of Works rented the power grid of the group to generate electricity and built the lake on the mountain of the Ministry of Works. How can you lose the money you earned? Wang Bei looked around and waited for the officials who had also invested money to agree. The Ministry of Works paid rent to rent the power grid. The Ministry of Works rented the mountain of the Ministry of Works independently. Didn't the Ministry of Works pay for the technology of the new group? Since they paid, why didn't the Ministry of Works rent the other Ministry of Works? I break even. I have accounts. Zhang Zhong didn't wait for the others to speak before he replied. But what about the subsequent profits? That is the business of the other Ministry of Works. What does it have to do with your new group? Master Wang, forget it. We can't win against them. Their son is Zhang Xiaobao, an existence that is above the list of billionaires. Just like what you said just now, other than the losses of a new group. Have you ever seen him lose money? Someone beside him pulled Wang Bei and persuaded him softly. Wang Bei's eyes were red. He pursed his lips and said with grievance, Didn't Zhang Xiaobao say that he wouldn't play tricks on the people of Tang Dynasty? There are so many people overseas. Why do you have to bully us? He said that he wouldn't play tricks on the people. How did we stop the Ministry of Works? We forced Zhang Zhong to not be able to eat well and sleep well. Xiao Bei and the group of children retaliated at that time. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't move. They were waiting for this moment. Sai, who said that the two of them had become kind. The person who persuaded him also had a sad expression. Li Longji, who was sitting there, also felt that Wang Bei and the others were quite pitiful. He sighed and said to Zhang Zhong, "Are there a lot of fish in the lake? It's the new year. You should eat and play, right?" Zhang Zhong understood and quickly said, "That's right. Other than the fish, there are also freshwater crabs. They are all made into drunken crabs. Minister Wang, I will send 500 pounds of crabs to your family first. I will also give you 1,000 ice skating coupons. It's free and you can play as much as you want. Next year, we will continue to work hard and make the group as profitable as possible. What do you think?" Didn't the Ministry of Works say that there are electric heaters? It's colder this year. Wang Bei knew that it was useless to force them, so he could only settle for the next best thing. Yes, each family will be given 10 of them first. The electricity will be waived. Consider it a bonus. Zhang Zhong agreed. Chapter 1154. What else do you want? Li Longji didn't care about the conflict between Zhang Zhong and Wang Ku, as long as it didn't affect the work of each department. He believed that Xiao Bao had thought of this when he was maintaining the new group's balance. He didn't want to make money or lose money. Losing money had a great impact on one's mood. The officials looked at each other and didn't say anything. It was the end of the year, and everything had been arranged. Today was the last court meeting of the year. After the meeting, they would go back to their places to tidy up. After work, they would participate in various activities during the holidays. Since there's nothing else, can the New Year's benefits be distributed? Li Longji looked at Wang Ku. The Ministry of Revenue had allocated money. Of course, each department also had extra benefits. Wang Hua, who had been quarreling with Zhang Zhong, quickly replied, "Your Majesty, from the day before yesterday until today, there have been all kinds of daily necessities sent from a supermarket. Tomorrow and the next 2 days, on the 28th and 29th of the 12th lunar month, there will also be mountain and sea dry goods sent from the northern part of Hebei province, including pine nuts and other snacks. The Ministry of Revenue has given each official an extra 10 to 100 strings of cash." Speaking of this, the officials looked much better, and so did Wang Ku. His family had received more than 2,000 strings of cash from the day before yesterday. It wasn't that the quantity was large, but that the quality of the goods was good. Li Bai, who was standing below, had received more than 300 strings of cash. Hearing Wang could take the credit for it, he muttered angrily, "What does the supermarket and Hebei province have to do with the Ministry of Revenue? If it were me, I would even stop the New Year's gifts. You ungrateful wretch." The Ministry of Works and the Sitong Temple should also distribute something. Li Longji looked at Zhang Zhong. Yes. Zhang Zhong agreed without hesitation. He was thinking about what the Ministry of Works could offer. Of course, he had to consider the light, industrial products. What the Western Agriculture Temple could offer was nothing more than various crops, such as popcorn. Not all fruits could be turned into seeds, and those that couldn't could only be eaten. Li Longji didn't say anything else and waved his hand. Gao Lishir called for the court to be dismissed, and all the officials retreated. Li Longji, on the other hand, continued to sit there without moving. Originally, he should have left first, but today he was too lazy to move. Listening to the whistling of the north wind, he didn't feel cold at all. He sat there looking at the sky, and no one could guess what he was thinking. When all the officials had left, Gao Lishir asked softly, "Your Majesty?" Oh, how has Hong been recently?" Li Longji withdrew his gaze from the sky and asked. He was asking about Li Hong, the current crown prince. His Highness should be studying in the Chongwon Library. In the past year, His Highness likes to read miscellaneous books and has basically put down history books. When His Majesty entered the capital, the Eastern Palace sent word that His Majesty was studying political economy before the Crown Prince came to welcome him. There are also functions of local officials in economic macro-control and principles for the ideological construction of the army that Cuckoo specially wrote for His Highness. There are also the relationship between the adjustment of bank interest, the increase and decrease of reserve rate, and the contradiction between expenditure of infrastructure and financial revenue, that Xiao Bao specially wrote for His Highness. Gao Lishi's reply was very straightforward. It looked like he usually paid a lot of attention to the Eastern Palace. Li Longji was confused. When he heard Gao Lishi say that Hong didn't read history books, he thought that it was because his son, the crown prince, didn't want to be emperor. Only history books could understand the rise and fall of dynasties. However, when he heard the latter part, Li Longji realized that something was wrong. His son had gone to read political economy, and then there were the 4 books that Cuckoo and Xiao Bao had specially written for him. Hearing the names of the books, it seemed to be related to the things that the two of them usually told him when he interacted with them. What did they mean? Gao Lishi knew why the emperor was surprised, but he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't see through what his godson and daughter-in-law were thinking. The two of them always gave others the feeling that they were looking at flowers in the fog and the moon in the water. They clearly existed, but they were so unrealistic. The two of them didn't seem to care about anything, but they also cared about everything. The two of them would occasionally be angry about domestic and foreign matters, but they had never been in a helpless situation where they couldn't think of a solution. The two of them were inseparable and had always been so happy. It could be said that it was a miracle in the world. Did it really have to be seen as that thing said? It was that everything was possible, but it was like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow. It was like fog and lightning. It should be seen as it was. It gave others the feeling that it wasn't real. Now, he was teaching the crown prince. I'll summon the two of them to come over and ask. Gao Lishi planned to call Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan over to see what they were planning to do. Forget it, forget it. Let's not talk about this during the new year. Li Longji was still unconvinced. He wanted to guess and wait until he really couldn't guess. Li Longji rose. He didn't sit in his carriage and strolled inside. As he walked, a young eunuch hurried over. It was Luo Bin. He ran to Gao Lishi's ear and whispered. As Luo Bin spoke, Gao Lishi's expression became more and more interesting. When Luo Bin finished, Gao Lishi met Li Longji's questioning gaze and didn't know what to say. What's wrong? Li Longji took the initiative to speak. Gao Lishi took 2 steps forward and moved closer to Li Longji. He whispered, apart from His Highness the Crown Prince, who's reading the book that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo wrote for him. The other princes are reading it as well. Some of them are studying natural science and architecture. Even the princesses have many things to do. For example, they're studying fashion design, proofreading newspaper articles, and studying education in Great Tang. It's no wonder Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are so busy every day when they're in Luzhou. As it turns out, they're secretly writing. Huh? Li Longji blinked. What do you mean? I don't know. Also, when we're in Luzhou, they're in contact with the foreign officials from time to time. They're holding tea parties, lectures, and so on. Gao Lishi continued to talk about what Luo Bin had mentioned earlier. Li Longji's expression turned interesting as well. He asked, why didn't anyone from the censorate mention this? That's because the people from the censorate are involved as well. It's the Anti-Corruption and Incorruptible Cooperation Association, organized by Princess Tang. During the meeting, she emphasized that we can't relax in investigating corruption under the current circumstances. In the end, she treated the people from the censorate to a meal of fried paste noodles. Gao Lishi continued to tell Li Longji what he had heard. Princess Tang is a girl. Why is she in charge of the censorate? Isn't she married to Shuexiu? Why isn't she at home taking care of her husband and children? Did the officials from the censorate go to her just because she looked for them? Li Longji's expression darkened. Gao Lishi waved at Luo Bin. He waited for Luo Bin to come over before he repeated what he had said. Luo Bin hastily replied, she didn't recruit them. She tricked them into going. The princess sent someone to look for an official from the censorate. He said that the princess has information on many officials' corruption. She also reprimanded the censorate for being incompetent and ordered them to investigate it. Did they find anything after they went there? Li Longji asked. Yes. The information was provided by the former Minister of Revenue, Lord Bai, and the others. It's all trivial matters, Luo Bin replied. This bunch of old officials, taking advantage of the fact that I can't do anything, they are getting more and more overboard. What kind of intelligence personnel are they forming? Are they trying to rebel? Leisure, I've been away for less than a year. Why do I feel that everything is in a mess when I come back? Li Longji realized that things were getting out of his control. What were his sons and daughters trying to achieve by jumping up and down? There were also old fellows who had already retired. They were making him restless. Luo Bin listened and thought for a while before he said, Your Majesty, Lord Bai and the others aren't spying on the Tang Empire's officials. They are collecting information on the Tang Empire's economy. For example, the prices of various places, which crops have increased in yield this year, where there are new pests and diseases in the wheat, how to prevent maggots from forming when the paste is being made, and so on. I've learned that it was Xiao Bao's idea. He said that their intelligence system is too poor and is not suitable for spying on the military and politics. It's better for them to do economic work. Once the information is collected, they can do business or sell it to merchants and earn money to support their families. In the end, when they were collecting economic information, some local officials were actually blindly directing the planting of crops, so they collected the information along the way. At that time, Your Majesty wasn't in the capital, so they handed it over to the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince saw that they were all small officials and didn't have any major problems, so he casually threw them aside. I don't know how they ended up in Princess Tang Chang's hands. It might have been sent out by a palace, maid, or eunuch under someone's orders. Luo Bin didn't directly point it out, but hinted that only Cuckoo seemed to be able to direct people in the palace without being exposed. Li Longji exhaled a white breath and stood there pondering. After a while he said, In other words, all my children, as long as they are not too young, are in contact with foreign officials and looking for various reasons to hold meetings? Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are behind this. Why didn't the two of them tell me first? I thought they wanted to give Your Majesty a surprise. Gao Lishir helped to speak. Right now, I'm not surprised, I'm frightened. Good fellow, it's not enough to keep them busy. All the princesses and princes who find foreign officials will be fined half a year's allowance. Tell them to ask whoever ordered them. Li Longji appeared very depressed. Luo Bin was very afraid. He wasn't sure if there was going to be another big purge in the palace. Gao Lishir wasn't worried. He knew that the emperor had too many clues and couldn't guess Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's goal. He was afraid of losing again. If they kept losing, no one would be happy. Your Majesty, I think it would be better to take advantage of the new year to gather all the princes and princesses and ask them one by one to see what they've done. After that, we can test them. Perhaps we can guess the truth behind some things. Gao Lishir suggested, reminding the emperor that he could use this method to figure out Xiao Bao and Cuckoo's thoughts and make targeted responses to win. Li Longji looked up at the sky and rolled his eyes. Don't be in a hurry to find them all. Send someone down to find out what meetings they've held and what departments they've invited. If we don't check, they'll talk nonsense and fool us. Your Majesty is wise. Go quickly. Gao Lishir habitually cupped his hands and turned his head to order Luo Bin. Luo Bin ran off. He had no choice. The ground was terrazzo and too slippery. It was mainly because his skills had improved. If he wanted to pave the courtyard, he didn't need to use marble. Marble was very expensive. After Luo Bin's figure disappeared, Li Longji rubbed his face that was cold from the north wind and ordered, prepare the carriage and go to Zhangwang's manor. Call the crown prince to me first. I'm not in the capital, but the capital has been messed up by him. If he doesn't give me an explanation, I'll give him one. Chapter 1155. In the Eastern Palace's Chongwen Hall, Crown Prince Li Hong was reading the relationship between the interest adjustment of the bank, the increase and decrease of the reserve rate and consumer behavior. Beside him were the 4 treasures of the study. When he saw a certain part, he had an idea of his own. He picked up the brush and started writing on the paper. There were 2 palace maids and 2 eunuchs beside him. The 4 of them were in charge of serving tea and water to the crown prince. In the past, they would have to look after the brazier. Now that there was heating, it saved them a lot of trouble. While the crown prince was reading, the 4 of them were not idle either. Everyone was holding a book in their hands and reading. They had to read. Nowadays, it was getting more and more difficult for the servants. Those who were uneducated were always bullied. There was no one in the Eastern Palace who was illiterate. Those who were illiterate were all chased out. At this rate, in another 10 or 20 years, the hotel's waiter would have to be at least a genius. The 4 of them had no choice but to continue working hard in order to stay by the crown prince's side and earn more money. One of the eunuchs flipped a page of the book and frowned. He asked the palace maid beside him, "Why is it so difficult for a product to become a luxury item? Everyone should be able to see it, right? No one is a fool, right?" The palace maid thought for a moment and said, "Wrong." Crown Prince Li Hong heard it and turned his head. Expensive is only one of the characteristics of luxury items. Luxury items must have a certain status and symbolize a lot of things. They are rare, but most people think that they have a connotation. The artificial color and its own luxury, plus the details of the service behind it, are the reasons why it is a luxury item. Of course, the aesthetic point of view of the superstructure and the identity of the previous owner are also very important. For example, the brush I use is a luxury item. The brush itself is not bad, and my identity has given it a unique color. Take it and send it to the auction house outside. When the weather gets cold, sell it and let's eat hot pot in the Eastern Palace. The eunuchs looked at the brush and was shocked. "Your Highness, are you really selling it?" "Yes, I'll sell it along with the brush's credit card. If the buyer spoils it, they can take it to the stationery shop opened by the Zhang family and Wang family. It will be free for life. These are the details of the service. They sent 30 of them this year. I can't use them all." Li Hong stuffed the brush into the young eunuch's hand and turned back to continue reading. The little eunuch was very happy and said with a smile, "Thank you, Your Highness. Your Highness knows so much. The sale of one brush is enough for the entire Eastern Palace to eat hot pot for half a month. Is the reputation of the producer very important?" "That's right. It's a brand. You can't create a brand just by hyping it up once," Li Hong said casually. The little eunuch put away the book, put away the pen and the credit card, and ran out happily. 5 seconds later, there was a sound outside, and he rubbed his nose and hurried back. "Your Highness, His Majesty has summoned you. He's waiting at the palace gates." When Li Hong left the Eastern Palace, he kept thinking about why his father wanted to see him. He recalled what he had done recently and found that there was nothing wrong. The only problem was that he was in a good mood. Li Hong knew that he had been scared out of his wits a while ago. With the birth of his younger brother, Li Jun, and the care of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, his position was not stable. He was not the only one who thought so, others also thought so. So what if he was the crown prince? He could be abolished. How could he be compared to Li Jun, the legitimate prince? Fortunately, when he was worrying about whether to take the initiative to retire or fight to the death, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan sent a lot of books, and the content of the books was related to governing the country. It was definitely not the kind of books that were read for entertainment. Most importantly, his father was not in the capital during this time. Although he still needed to send a telegram to inquire about important matters, for small matters, he could gather the ministers in the Eastern Palace to discuss. Through the discussion, many ministers understood that he was not so incompetent as the crown prince. As long as he did not make any mistakes, even if he lost his position one day, he would not be too miserable. After all, he had learned a lot of skills to govern the country. At the same time, in order to not be caught by others, he usually did not go anywhere. If he did go out, he would go to other businesses opened by the savant's restaurant and Zhang Xiaobao. No one could say that he was there to scheme, right? Who did not know that the spies of the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family were involved in these businesses? Later on, he listened to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and pulled the other brothers to do things together. Even the princess participated. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also helped to persuade the other princes and princesses to take the initiative to organize various activities. It looked like they were dispersing his authority as the crown prince, but they were also making him not special and sharing the risk. It could be said that they had put a lot of thought into it. Xiaobao and Cuckoo are both good people, Li Mu muttered. His gaze had already landed on his father, who was waiting at the palace gates. He hurriedly took 2 steps forward and approached. Imperial father, you are looking for your son? Let's go to Zhang Wang's residence together. We have something to ask Xiaobao and Cuckoo. Li Longji sized up his son. Seeing that his son's complexion was not bad and that he was full of energy, he was quite satisfied with his son's self-confidence. After calling Li Hong into the imperial carriage, Li Longji closed his eyes and didn't say anything, allowing the carriage to sway slightly. Li Hong couldn't speak casually, and the pressure was great. As the carriage rose and fell, his heart was also in a state of turmoil. After a short and long period of time, Li Hong finally entered Zhang Wang's residence. The manor was bustling with noise and excitement. Xiao Bei led a large group of children running around. There were a total of 30 of them, and they were all 1 or 2 years old. From time to time, a child would fall down and cry a few times before getting up and continuing to run around. Fortunately, the ground was paved with fine sand, and there were fan-like things in the surroundings that blew out waves of hot air. Li Longji was also confused. This was Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Manners were going to open a kindergarten in the residence? Xiao Bei, what are you doing? Why didn't you greet us when you saw us? Li Longji was almost knocked over by Xiao Bei, so he supported the sweaty Xiao Bei and asked. Xiao Bei really didn't pay attention to who had come. He raised his head and said with a smile, Hello, Uncle Emperor. They are all children of my family's Zhuangzi. It's the new year, and they know that the family head can't go back, so my grandparents came to the capital under the protection of selected villagers. They know that the residence doesn't lack anything, so they brought a group of children over for us to see. My older brother and older sister have something to do, so I'll lead them to play first. Uncle Emperor, you can walk around as you please. I'll continue. After saying this, Xiao Bei called out to the children and ran off again. Li Longji nodded after hearing Xiao Bei's words. He felt that Zhang Wang's villagers in Zhuangzi didn't have much to take, so it was better to bring a group of children over. It was festive, and the population was flourishing. Then where did your older brother and older sister go? Li Longji asked. Xiao Bei didn't even turn his head as he shouted, They're somewhere else. They're in the magistrate's hall at the south gate of the east courtyard. Xiao Hai ran over and answered for his younger sister. Your Majesty, this way. Gao Lishir was leading the way, and there were people in front of him leading the way. In fact, there was no need to ask. How could there be no one to receive the emperor when he came? As a result, the 2 families all came out, including the villagers. Some bowed, some kowtowed, and some kowtowed. Li Longji had no choice but to stop and exchange a few pleasantries before continuing to walk towards the magistrate's hall. After walking for about 10 minutes, they finally arrived at the south gate. It could be seen how big the 2 families' residences were. In fact, because there was no direct path, although it wasn't a one-step view, it was still enough to make people feel uncomfortable. When they arrived at the magistrate's hall, Li Longji lightened his footsteps and signaled for the others not to make too much noise. After entering through the corner gate, he saw a room with the words Magistrate's Hall written on it. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see that there were many people sitting inside. At the very front was Wang Wan. At this moment, she was holding a pointer and pointing it at the blackboard. Li Longji stood by the window and listened to the sound coming from the ventilated window. The advantage of being an official is that they can listen to what their masters say and teach. The disadvantage is that they can easily become dogmatic, which is not conducive to innovation and is always resistant to new things. As the country's basic education gradually improves, the advantage of being an official's descendant will slowly decrease. At the same time, new contradictions will appear. It is very important to know how to use and convert these contradictions. We will talk about this problem in a few classes. Let's stop here for today. One last thing. The problem of governance is definitely not solved overnight. It is always changing according to the needs of the ruling class and the ruled class. Class dismissed. When Wang Wan's voice sounded, the class was over. The students all stood up with a whoosh. There were both men and women, and all of them had good temperaments. Li Longji knew that Wang Wan saw him, so she stopped talking. After listening to a few sentences, he felt that it was very good. When he carefully looked at the students, he was stunned. Previously, he thought that Xiao Bao and Cuckoo had found a talent to teach. In the end, other than those who were too young and couldn't come back, the rest of the princes and princesses were all here. For a moment, Li Longji felt that either he was crazy, Zhang Xiaobao, and Wang Wan were crazy. In any case, someone had to be crazy. Otherwise, what would he see in front of him? Li Hong swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He really couldn't understand why Wang Wan was teaching the other siblings about governance. In the past, this was something that they pondered on themselves or listened to the guidance of their elders. But now Wang Wan was actually speaking about it openly and carefully analyzing a kind of knowledge that could only be understood, but not taught. The princess was already married, so why was she teaching them this? The students in the classroom also saw the people outside the window. They were too focused on listening just now, so they didn't notice. All kinds of greetings sounded, and Li Hong also enjoyed the glory of being the crown prince. Li Longji waved his hand outside, and the students and teachers came out and greeted him again. Let's go back first for today. Li Longji instructed his children. He couldn't say anything else. After all, it was Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan who asked him to come. The princes and princesses left one after another. When they walked a little further away, they were still discussing the contents of today's class. Li Longji faintly heard them, but pretended not to know. He looked at Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao, who was beside her, and waited for an explanation. Li Hong also wanted to know what the purpose of these two's actions was. They couldn't be supporting a group of crown princes, right? Wang Wan looked at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao symbolically patted the chalk dust off his hands and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, the crown prince and adoptive father, have you all eaten?" Chapter 1156. Not yet. Li Longji immediately calmed down. He did not immediately question why Zhang Xiaobao had taught the princes and princesses so much knowledge that they should not have learned. After all, the princesses were not involved in the administration of government. "Let's eat together?" Zhang Xiaobao tentatively invited. "What do you think? Do we have to go back for a meal?" Li Longji glared. Okay. Today, we'll eat northern cuisine. Why don't we make a new type of Sichuan cuisine? Zhang Xiaobao began to consider the specifics. Li Longji did not speak. Li Hong asked, "What's that?" "Total numbing and spicy," Zhang Xiaobao replied. "Isn't numbing and spicy a dish from northern Hebei province? Is that where your officials?" Li Hong was surprised. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. "How can numbing and spicy be brought to the northeast? The northeast should mainly be stewed and dried vegetables. Due to the living conditions, the seeds brought back from outside do not grow well in the northeast. I'm talking about the numbing and spicy seeds. Only places with damp and hazy weather should eat numbing and spicy. Your Highness will know when the seeds multiply." For a moment, Zhang Xiaobao could not explain to Li Hong. The choice of dishes was greatly affected by the region. "Okay, let's try it." Li Hong made the decision. He had never eaten a full plate of numbing and spicy dishes before. Li Longji had some understanding of the situation. The various crop seeds transported from northern Hebei province to the capital were being sent to various places in the Great Tang to be tested and grafted and improved. At the same time, the crops south of the Yellow River and Yangtze River were also sent to the north for improvement. For example, oranges. It was said that oranges in Huainan were oranges and oranges in Huainan were oranges. They had already told the world that oranges in Huainan were not good, but the Sitong still insisted on sending oranges to various places to try and cultivate varieties suitable for local cultivation. The current chili could only be described in one word: spicy. There were no large and not very spicy chili peppers that Xiaobao and Cuckoo had described. This was all because the Sitong and Bohai Commander-in-Chief's office had failed to graft the seeds. After the meal, everyone was sweating profusely. Li Hong basically had half a stomach full of food and half a stomach full of water. He drank a mouthful of water after eating a mouthful of food. Li Longji also experienced Zhang Xiaobao's cooking skills for the first time. It was completely different from the spicy food Zhang Xiaobao had eaten on his way out. Xiaobao, can the people of Sichuan really eat it every day? Yes, after we plant them on a large scale, you can't stop them from eating it. The Sichuan wine is spicy, and the Jiangnan wine is gentle. Everyone knows how comfortable it is after eating it. It's a natural choice for survival, and it's irreversible. Just like the people in politics, water can float a boat, but it can also capsize it. We know that we don't need you to teach us in this aspect. You should continue to teach the princes and princesses, teach them the way of a ruler, and then establish themselves as vassals. When you have nothing to do, you can fight with each other and treat it as training your soldiers. Li Longji followed the topic to the purpose of his visit today. He wanted to let Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan see what they were teaching. Zhang Xiaobao naturally wouldn't admit it. How can they become vassals? They don't have military power. Cuckoo, and I just want to take back the local revenue in their hands. In the future, there will be more and more local revenue. If we continue to give it to them, the development of their land will definitely be the worst. If we directly refuse Your Majesty as a father, we'll have to bear the risk of being criticized by the people, saying that you don't empathize with your children and make their lives difficult. Thus, it's better to let them take the initiative to hand it over and then return it to them. What's the difference? Hand it over and return it? Do you think we have nothing better to do? We don't understand. How can their land's revenue be poor? Would it be better to hand it over and return it to them? Li Longji listened to Zhang Xiaobao talk in circles and returned to the starting point. He calmly asked, waiting for Zhang Xiaobao to give an explanation. Li Hong was also waiting. He also wanted to know Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's plan. Did they really want to nurture many vassals and then compete with him? No. With the future emperor? His position as the crown prince didn't seem to be secure enough. Zhang Xiaobao glanced at Wang Wan. Seeing that Wang Wan had no intention of explaining, he could only speak up himself. Your Majesty, you have many children, so you have many fiefs. Princes are conferred titles, but your actions are mostly in name, but not in reality. There are very few capable people. Why? Because... Speak properly. We know you're the top scorer. Don't talk nonsense. Li Longji had also learned many new words. Actually, Your Majesty is using the revenue of the Great Tang to support a group of idlers. When they realize that they are of no use, they think about playing all day long. If they play well, they will become more hedonistic, and you'll be more at ease. These kinds of people can't fight for power. The princes that you sent out were basically only nominal in their local areas. Less than 1 out of 10 of them could do big things. When the people in the fief that they were given saw that their income was given to them in the end, the local officials had no motivation to do anything. They haven't learned much about governance. When they see that other places have more money than their fiefs, the only way is to exploit them. The more they exploit, the worse the local economy will become. In the end, it will become a vicious cycle. Zhang Xiaobao paused here to give Li Longji time to think. He believed that Li Longji was smart enough to understand. Li Longji didn't think for too long. He nodded and said, "Continue. Speed up." Li Hong finally realized that his imperial father wasn't as serious as he thought. When facing Zhang Xiaobao and his family, he could say anything. What was speed? Was it fast or slow? If he said this in Hanyuan Palace, half of the officials would immediately fall over. Zhang Xiaobao didn't consider Li Hong's feelings and continued, "If you teach them more knowledge, they will naturally pay attention. Those who have some thoughts about a certain position will be able to use this opportunity to directly express it. When the time comes, Your Majesty can discuss with them and take back their fiefs. Then you can arrange for them to be in various administrative positions. Just like in a game of Monopoly, you can set down rules and let them compare with each other. They can publish their own administrative policies in the newspapers, or even attack the administrative methods of others. In the end, there will definitely be many excellent administrative methods that will be included in the textbooks. There will also be many failures that will be included in the textbooks for future generations to compare. Cuckoo and I will teach them for another 3 months. After that, we will go to the north to train the soldiers. If they want to learn more, they can only learn from the books or figure out themselves. Presumably, the Great Tang will be very lively next year. Very chaotic, right? Li Longji said as he narrowed his eyes and began to think. Li Hong quietly came to Zhang Xiaobao's side and asked softly, "What about me?" What he meant was that while others had things to do, he couldn't run to a certain place to administer. Wouldn't that make him an idle person? Next year, when the soldiers are training, His Majesty will often go out to various places to patrol. If the battles are going well, His Majesty will personally go out to fight. You will continue to supervise the country. When His Majesty is in the capital, you will go out to patrol. Now that the National Treasury has plenty of money, you won't lack this expense. If it really doesn't work out, I can pay for it." Zhang Xiaobao also said softly. Li Hong was happy. Supervising the country was good. Even if it was only temporarily exercising power, it was still satisfying. Going out to patrol was also a good choice. Who didn't want to play? In the past, the Crown Prince of the Eastern Palace wanted to go sightseeing all over the Great Tang, but it was a dream. Won't it be that after playing for too long, you will forget about proper business? Li Hong was slightly worried. No. When you see the lives of the people, whether it is tears or smiles, you will be more determined to let them live a better life. This is a good country. Shouldn't we cherish it and have it? Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand, seemingly including the entire country. Li Hong nodded fiercely. That's right. You will be able to see more things outside, and the country is very good. It will be hard on you all to go out to war. It's fine. We will have to fight in the end. If we don't get beaten up, we will beat up others. When the day comes that there is no more fighting in the world, it means that all species have died out, including flowers and trees, Zhang Xiaobao sighed. While Zhang Xiaobao and Li Hong were muttering to each other, Li Longji suddenly spoke up, giving Li Hong a fright. Gao Lisher played along and asked, "Your Majesty, what do you understand?" "We know why Xiaobao and Cuckoo chose this time." "Why?" Gao Lisher continued to play along. "They are afraid that the princes and princesses will interfere with them while they are conscripting resources from the various fiefdoms. Back then, they were training their troops in the north and were unable to free themselves, and it was difficult for them to deal with other people's identities. But now it is different. We have given them benefits and given them something to do, and they will be rewarded for their achievements. Naturally, all of them will have to cooperate with Xiaobao and Cuckoo. Providing military supplies is also a form of achievement," Li Longji said proudly. Gao Lisher pondered for a moment before nodding. "Your Majesty is wise. Xiaobao, we didn't say anything wrong, right? Am I right?" Li Longji asked Zhang Xiaobao with a smile. "Your Majesty is wise." Zhang Xiaobao repeated his godfather's words. But hearing him admit it so readily, Li Longji's confidence was shaken. "No, wait, let us think about it." Li Longji narrowed his eyes. Zhang Xiaobao shrugged and looked at Wang Wan. Wang Wan returned a smiling expression. Chapter 1157. In the end, Li Longji couldn't think of any other schemes. He drank 2 pots of West Lake Longjing tea and packed 2 jin of Junshan silver needles before leaving with Li Hong. When he saw Xiao Bei in the courtyard, who was still playing with the children, he greeted her. Then, he pondered for a moment about what he could use to create hot air. After asking Zhang Xiaobao, he found out that it was a temporary combination of an electric heater and an electric fan. He ordered Gao Lishir to make a note of it and make one the next day. Then, he rode the imperial carriage back to the palace. Zhang Xiaobao picked up a child who ran over and gave him a kiss. Then, he followed Wang Wan back to the back to work on the textbooks. Let's take it slow. First, let the princes and princesses participate in politics. If they can't think of something, they'll have to ask others. After all, they can't ask everyone from the same class. That way, they won't be able to do a good job. After forming a habit, Li Hong will take over Li Longji's position, and Li Jun will take over Li Hong's position. Then, a brand new political structure will be formed. At that time, we'll be old, and our juniors will have a chance to participate as well. We'll form a new distribution system of interest groups and restrict each other. At the same time, we'll be scheming against other countries to protect our own interests. At that time, we'll truly be a country of gentlemen. If there are benefits, we'll take them. If there aren't, we'll withdraw. A gentleman doesn't put himself in danger. Confucius said that a gentleman should have a status, and a country of gentlemen should have a status. Zhang Xiaobao suddenly said to Wang Wan as he was pondering what to write. Wang Wan also stopped writing and smiled. You're cultivating a hegemonic country. Who said that? Whoever dares to say that is opposing the integration of the entire world. Whoever dares to disobey will be hindering the progress and development of mankind. What kind of argument do you support? If you support the integration of the entire world, then you should focus on our great Tang. That's because our technology is the most advanced, and our thinking is the most open. If you don't obey, then great Tang will liberate you and help your people to live a democratic life. If you support the individual interests of your country, then that's fine. Our great Tang also has its own interests, and it's right to beat you up. If you don't obey, then you'll be violating the interests of our dynasty. We'll remove this regime and support a regime that's more friendly to great Tang. Zhang Xiaobao said nonchalantly. After saying that, he also laughed. Nonsense. If we leave in March, what will happen to Xiao Bei and the others? Wang Wan did not continue to discuss the matter of right and wrong. Instead, she began to worry about her younger siblings. Follow them and send them back to the capital before the war. First, we have to calculate the autumn harvest season. Before their autumn harvest, we have to take action and knock out those stands. Of course, they don't go by that name now. In the end, we stop at the border of Iran, enlisting the help of the local people to build the railway, refining the oil in their local area, and transporting it back by railway. The first unit to reach here. Russia to the north was not occupied first. After all, they did not have many people, and the weather was still cold. After the first step is done, we will come back and do economic construction. At the same time, we will use soft means to bring Japan and Silla into the territory of the Great Tang. In 2 years, Japan will be done with, and it will be very easy to deal with it. After that, they sent troops to India. They left Myanmar and Vietnam in the middle and continued to exploit them through economic means. At the same time, they sent people to North America and South America to continue exploring other places. At that time, Li Longji should know that there is no other powerful country on earth. What do you think you will think? Let me say this first. I don't agree with what you said just now. How can we attack through space? Just take a part of India and let us have a base after crossing the snow mountains. Otherwise, do you think a religious country is so easy to bully? How tiring is it to travel by land? We have to take a big detour by sea. It's more convenient to go through Myanmar. Wang had different strategic goals. At the same time, she thought of lying to Li Longji. Zhang Xiaobao thought for a moment and agreed. It's indeed not good to attack India directly. In fact, it's very tiring to attack the countries on the other side of the snow mountains. No wonder India is always afraid of the military port China built in Pakistan. It's easy to deal with Li Longji's problem. He won't be able to figure it out in a few years. Do you think the sea is so easy to explore? You can figure it all out just by riding a boat? Who dares to go to the South Pole now? I suddenly thought of something. Let me ask you, which is the greatest man-made waterway in the history of human shipping? Jinghang Grand Canal. We are still working on it. Otherwise, why are we building so many boats? It's to make up for the inconvenience of land transportation. Wang answered without thinking. Wrong. The Jinghang Grand Canal is only convenient for Tang Empire. Think about it. Where is the furthest place for shipping? Zhang Xiaobao blinked. Suez Canal? That's right. We can come from the Mediterranean Sea and enter the Red Sea directly. Otherwise, we have to take a big detour. It's better to take the land route. Wang immediately thought of this great man-made river. Zhang Xiaobao clapped his hands. That's right. There's another one. The peninsula that extends out from Thailand. It's the one that is blocked by Singapore. Isn't there a very thin place in the middle? Let's build that canal too. That way, we don't have to go through Malacca. That's right. Malay Peninsula. There is a canal there. We helped them build it. They said it's the most advantageous for us in terms of transportation. Why don't you mention Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam? That's right. It's called the Kerala Canal. It will have a huge impact on Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. If everyone doesn't go through Malacca, their ports will lose their important transit point. I support you. Let's get the businessmen to build it now. Let's take it slow. Let's dig through the middle first. Let's blow up both sides. Let's see if Indonesia still dares to discriminate against us in the future. Humph. Wang thought of such an important canal and waved her fist to express her thoughts. Zhang Xiaobao was stunned. He felt that he was already very radical. He didn't expect Wang to be so angry. That you still want them to rise up? If we don't spend a lot of money on building the canal, how can we count on those small countries? They are already poor. This is the disadvantage of being next to a big country. Take Mexico, for example. America's economy is so developed. How poor is Mexico? After a few years, the businessmen will have gone further. They can also build the Suez Canal. Let's not talk about going to the Mediterranean Sea. It's even more convenient to go to England. It's too dangerous to go through the Cape of Good Hope. If we go through the Mediterranean Sea, we will be facing Germany. Where are Austria and Hungary? Fight, and fight the Eight-Nation Alliance. Is that what you mean? Wake up first. Write quickly. We only have 3 months. Let's finish our time in China. We can put the issue of occupying Iceland behind us. Then we can fly out of the Milky Way. Wang shook her head and was the first to recover from her thoughts. Zhang Xiaobao sighed and nodded. All right. We don't have a reactor ship yet. Let's not talk about anti-gravity galactic battleships first. We can talk about artificial wormholes and space jumps later. I will give you face and write. Time passed quickly in Zhang Xiaobao and Wang's various fantasies. The new year had come. The people in other places were still lighting oil lamps and candles. They were also fantasizing about being like the people in Chang and enjoying the brightly lit streets one day. Compared to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang, they were much more realistic. Li Longji spent a few days leisurely and began to prepare for his appearance in front of the people in the capital on New Year's Eve. Crown Prince Li Hong was also busy. The princes and princesses in the capital temporarily stayed at home and worked hard to study the strategy of governing the country. They had agreed to return their original fiefdoms. After the new year, they could choose a new place to govern personally. Compared to the income of the fiefdom, the most important thing was to be ranked at the top in the competition. The first place could get a trade fleet consisting of 30 large ships. It was said that one could earn 1,000,000 strings of pure profit in just a few months. Even the last place could get a share of the profits. They were allowed to have a large cargo ship go out to sea. It would not be difficult to earn 100,000 strings of pure cash a year. There was also the place they governed. After the economy improved, they could also get a share of the increased financial income. With so many benefits, what fiefdom? Forget it. Bei and a group of children were also busy. They sent reports to candy houses all over the country and distributed the prepared candy to the children so that they could have a sweet new year. When the firecrackers sounded, the sky above Chang'an was bright. The fragrance of dumplings filled every corner. Chapter 1158. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had just eaten 2 cooked dumplings with their family before midnight. They also had a toast with their grandfather and father. Before they could even greet each other with the New Year's greetings, the palace's decree had arrived. They want us to go to the hibiscus garden? What did they do earlier? Xiao Bei complained. Suddenly, he rolled his eyes and said to little Yuan, who had been accompanying him, "How much do you think we can get from paying them a New Year's greetings?" Little Yuan was still in a daze. Everything seemed to be a mess during the New Year. Countless people were moving around in the mansion like a merry-go-round. It was obvious that they were not used to the bustle. When little Yuan heard Xiao Bei's question, he said in a daze, "At least 100 strings of cash. Why are we so worthless? Listen to me when we get there later. Pan, and the others have to pay us a New Year's greeting, right? We'll give them 100,000 strings of cash each. When we pay them a New Year's greeting, who dares to miss this amount?" Humph. Xiao Bei decided to use his ultimate trump card. He would first give the money and then receive it. We're not doing business. It's the new year. Everyone should be happy. Unfortunately, little Ji, little Xiang, little Ru, little Yi, and the others are too young. Xiao Hong has just learned to run. I'm worried about whether to fake her ears or not. If we don't do it, she's born without ears, and it's difficult for her to hear. If we do it, will she think that we look down on her because she doesn't have ears? Otherwise, why do we have to give her a pair of ears? If we didn't impulsively accept her as our sister back then, we wouldn't have to worry about this, right? Little Yuan said to Xiao Bei as they walked out with the group. Zhang Fang, who was at the side, added, "It's not impulsive. It's the right decision. Take me, my brother, and brother Zhang Chang for example. Brother Zhang Chang was originally a mountain villager in Luzhou. If our father didn't accept him as his adopted son, how could the mountain villager leave the mountains so easily? My brother and I are foster father's children. The entire Wing province, that ethnic minority, will always be at ease. In fact, my brother and I both know that it doesn't matter who our foster father chooses. It's just that he chose us because we're about the same age. It's our luck. Xiao Hong doesn't have ears, but she's still our sister. She's a member of the Tang's patrol. Who in Tang dares to look down on children with physical defects? Brother and sister have acquiesced to it." That makes sense. Little Yuan nodded. Most of the time, there was a political purpose behind doing things. Of course, when he first took Hong in, he did not think of the political meaning behind it. He just felt that Hong was pitiful. She was just missing 2 ears. How could she not have the right to live? Thinking of Hong, Xiao Yuan also thought of the registrar and that woman from back then. He asked, where was the registrar at that time? Where was Hong Er's mother? I don't know. Xiao Bei also remembered. She turned her head to look at the servant girl. It was not easy to be a maidservant. In addition to taking care of the little ancestors, she also had to remember many things and even help to come up with ideas at critical moments. any one of the maidservants of the Zhang family, and the Wang family could be used as a county magistrate. The registrar has already become a commoner. His family owns a few dozen mu of land. I heard that he is not in good spirits. Occasionally, when he is free, he would mutter about Hong, or his mother is doing business with the families of the two young ladies, the young man and the young man. Our family is not in charge of them. It was the young lady who instructed him. She said that if a relative used another relative as a subordinate, it would be an insult to both of them. They must be allowed to act independently. The young master also agreed. They opened a tea shop on Chang, a street in the capital. The place is quite good. My family put in a lot of effort to arrange for it. Now, they sell tea from all over the Great Tang. As long as the young master and young lady get new tea, they will definitely put it in the tea shop to sell. In terms of variety, they have the most variety that ordinary people can drink. They have the most variety. Every month, they earn more than 1,000 strings of coins in net. Huh? So much? I'm not saying that they earn too much. I'm saying how can a tea shop make so much profit? Xiao Bei said in surprise. Because their tea is all good tea, the servant girl replied. All right. After tonight, we will go and have a look. Xiaofang, do you miss home? Brother Zhang Chang has already visited his family when he returned to Luzhou. You haven't been back for a long time. Xiao Bei suddenly thought of this question. She felt that if she was asked to leave her brother and sister for too long, she would miss them very much. Zhang Fang pondered for a moment and said, I miss them, but we have a good life here. I have forgotten what my parents look like. When we go to the north to train the soldiers, let's take a detour. We will go home and have a look. Then she sighed and said, if we hadn't been paying attention to the precious candy houses in various places, I wouldn't even be able to outline the appearance of my hometown. At that time, the family was probably a kind of transaction. Before the compulsory education system and welfare were fully provided in the Great Tang, there were many families who gave their children away. Although it was said to be a gift, it was actually a kind of sale. However, the price was very low. It was just a few eggs or a piece of meat. They didn't even need anything as long as the other party promised not to harm the child. All this was because of poverty. Even my family couldn't refuse such a temptation. Since I gave my children to you, you naturally have to take care of the whole family. My brother and I are the bargaining chips on both sides of the balance. The Great Tang needs the loyalty of my tribe, and my tribe needs the welfare of the Great Tang. But as a bargaining chip, I don't regret it at all. I have a group of brothers and sisters. If I want, I can eat with the Emperor of the Great Tang every day. I can let Brother Xiao Bao and Sister Cuckoo, who are respected by the Great Tang people, hold me. The head of family should never expect such glory. What I need to think about now is how to face my people in the future. It's very troublesome. Who asked my identity to be different? That's right. I never thought that I would be born with such an identity. It's so scary. I always wanted to live the life of an ordinary child of the Great Tang, but I never succeeded. Haven't we seen the children of other great clans? They are all so arrogant. When we ask them how many eggs a chicken lays, they don't even know how many eggs they lay for a kilogram. What's the point of living like that? According to my brother's story, it's called elite education. Elites mean that they don't know that 7 to 9 eggs is a kilogram. They don't know that a newly opened egg can be counted to 11. My brother and sister are better. They teach us everything from the most basic farming manure to the political struggles of the upper class. That day in my dream, I thought, who am I? I don't seem to have myself. I am one of my brothers and sisters at home, and I have to learn to show my parents. When I am outside, I am a diplomat in charge of all kinds of foreign exchanges. I was born in the Zhang family, and the things I do don't belong to me. This autumn, I saw Lu Zhou picking rice ears during the children's holidays. I helped him pick them up, but he complained that he had to go to school and listen to his parents at home. During the holidays, he also had to help with the farm work. He only had an hour to play by himself every day. From then on, I felt that I was very happy. He could only play for an hour every day. It turns out that I am not the only one who doesn't belong to myself. A few days ago, I thought that many parents work in the day and come back at night to cook and take care of the children. Are they not themselves? Who are they? I can't figure it out. Xiao Bei followed Xiao Fang's words. The more she spoke, the more off-topic she became. In the end, she fell silent. Obviously, philosophy was not suitable for children to ponder, even if they had heard too many stories. The road was unobstructed. The Zhang family and Wang family had this appeal. No matter how many people gathered on the road, as soon as they saw the Zhang family and Wang family's carriages, they would make way. The hearts of the people were aligned. There was no need to honk. Those who lost the hearts of the people walked away with bayonets. Some people threw eggs and hid after throwing one. Even the guards were very relaxed. When passing by, the people would help to watch both sides. No one could think of rushing up. If someone really wanted to complain, they could just go to the Zhang family and Wang family. At this time, if they rushed over, the reason for complaining was too lousy, and no one would believe them. By the time they arrived at Hibiscus Garden, it was already 4 in the morning. Their ears were buzzing with the sound of firecrackers. The stage set up in Hibiscus Garden reverberated with a pop song written by an unknown composer. After a while, the firecrackers in Hibiscus Garden stopped. Xiao Bei removed the hand covering his ears and said gloomily, "I was wondering why the noise was so loud. It turns out it was specially set off for us. Uncle Emperor really has nothing better to do. Let's see how much New Year's money he gave me." Humph. Zhang Xiaobao was also shocked to the point that his eyes were spinning. The power of the gunpowder was obvious. He walked forward to pull his younger brother and sister. "Brother, let me ask you something." Xiao Bei reached out his hand for his brother to pull. He said, "Do you think you are yourself? You live for yourself, don't you? Are you tired?" Zhang Xiaobao was stunned. Beside him, Wang Wan was also stunned. At the same time, the two of them were a little worried. This was because many people who committed suicide had such thoughts. They thought that the process of life was too simple. They thought that they had seen through everything, and that life and death were no longer important. Stopping, Zhang Xiaobao pretended to think. After a while he said, "I am tired. Many times I feel that my existence is meaningless. I wear a hypocritical mask all day long and say things that I don't mean. Sometimes I even want to end my life. That day, I had a dream. I had a dream that I was going to die. Then I realized that many people were crying. You guys were crying, our parents were crying, and even His Majesty was crying. Then it spread to the entire Tang Empire. At that time, the Tang Empire seemed to have lost its soul and was filled with sorrow. I didn't understand. I was the only one who died. What did it have to do with other people? Then the sound of chains rang out. I saw Oxhead and Horseface. The two people were crying. Their throats were hoarse from crying. I was puzzled. I told the two of them that we met again. That I seem to have seen them before. It's been too long, so I can't remember. I said, "What's wrong with the two of you? Are you sick? You have to be treated. It can't be delayed." The two of them immediately knelt down and hit the ground with their heads. Oxhead spoke first. "Why are you here again? Didn't you promise last time that you wouldn't torment us for 100 years? What right do you have to go back on your word?" I said, "There's no meaning in living. I might as well die." Horseface followed. "How is there no meaning in living? Look at how many people are crying when you die. So many people need you. You're stronger than Oxhead and me. No one wants to see us. You're so lucky. Do you know that?" I said that's not what I meant. What I meant was that I'm too tired from living. I don't have time for myself. I can't even rest. I might as well die. If you guys don't disturb me, I'll be happier. You're the one who's disturbing us, okay? You don't intend to let the underworld have peace. No one does that, you know? Even ghosts have to be reasonable. If you're tired, why don't you just ignore others and find a quiet place to fish, touch the prawns, plant some crops, and make some flowers? Won't you feel less tired then? This was what Ox had said. At first, I thought it made sense. Then, I thought that's not right. No one knows me anymore. What's the point of me living? So I said no. Others have to know me. Then, the two of them came up with an idea. They said it's simple. Print what you do in the newspaper every day and show it to everyone, but they can't disturb you after reading it. Just like that, I agreed. I listened to the two of them and returned to the living world. Another 3 days passed. I was really annoyed. Although they told others about me, they didn't give me any feedback. Did they treat me like I was invisible? I don't want to live anymore. Everyone doesn't care about me. What's the point of me living? So brother, you saw Oxhead and Horseface again. They knelt down in front of you again, right? They're quite tenacious. If I were them, I would have wanted to die. You're too much of a torment. Before Zhang Xiaobao could finish, Zhang Xiaobao had already thought of the answer. Okay, I get it. Actually, I'm not living for myself. If I were to live for myself, I wouldn't be able to live. I need others to acknowledge me. I also need to see my decision change the lives of others. Why? You have to see who I am first. Who am I? I'm Zhang Xiaobao. My existence is a symbol. My name will definitely become a legend. The kind that Oxhead and Horseface will tremble when they hear it. Let's go. Let's make others tremble first. Let's go get some red packets. If anyone dares to give less today, I'll have to listen to their family's welfare after the new year. Zhang Xiaobao waved his hand and strode towards Li Longji. Behind him was a group of children who would become legends. Chapter 1159. Many people came to the hibiscus garden. There were civil and military officials, as well as titled madams. Their ranks were not low, and they were not allowed to come. If they were ordinary people, it was like a lottery. First, people were allowed to apply, and then they would be allowed to go. However, businessmen with more than 10,000 strings of cash were not allowed to come. They were deliberately suppressed to let the businessmen know that just having money was not enough. In this world, money could not completely decide everything. There was also heaven, earth, ruler, parents, and teachers. There were also ethics and morals to be followed. Do not rely on money to be above other people's character, and do not think about interfering with politics. The people who came to the hibiscus garden to spend the New Year's Eve together were very obedient. When they were arranged to be far away from the emperor, no one complained. The emperor's safety was very important. What if someone tried to assassinate him? When the Zhang family and Wang family arrived, they had already started to eat the dumplings. It was slightly late, and the road was not easy to walk. Li Longji only ate 2 dumplings symbolically, and then kept clinking glasses with people to drink wine. He drank red wine mixed with fruit juice, not dry red wine. If he drank dry red wine, Li Longji could not bear to mix other things. It would affect the taste too much, so it was better not to drink dry red wine. The officials also ate 2 dumplings symbolically, and did not eat much food. They were afraid that if they ate too much, their stomachs would feel uncomfortable. When the time came, whether or not to vomit would be a problem. The person who drank the most was the Minister of Revenue, Wang Bei. The Zhang family and Wang family had already cut off a year's worth of benefits. If not for his daughter-in-law being pregnant, he would not even eat the birds in the northeast. In front of the emperor, he finally gave something during the new year, but it was far less than what the other officials received. There was not much spare money at home, and all of it was invested in the cooperation with the Ministry of Works. Until now, there was still no profit. Wang Bei admitted that. He could not help but admire Zhang Xiaobao. His calculations were too good, and there was no falsification in the accounts. The operation of the group always gave people the feeling that it was healthy and upward. The future prospects were very bright, but the income and expenses were always balanced. It was like playing chess. If one skill was high enough, it was very easy to win or lose. If one wanted to end every game in a draw, it was very difficult. However, Zhang Xiaobao had done it. He had done it under the watchful eyes of countless people, and no one could find any fault with it. Every time the group had a new business deal or cooperation, it was the moment when the group's funds were about to dry up. Then, someone would come up with a new solution and wait for them to sign and agree. If they were not willing to sign, they could hold a meeting and discuss other solutions together. After a discussion, they realized that if they didn't follow the new plan, the group would go bankrupt. Hence, they signed the agreement. The result of signing the agreement was that they would enter the next crisis and continue to be trapped. This was the scariest thing about Zhang Xiaobao. Everything was laid out in the open. When you were given hope, you would not be able to profit. When you were in despair, you would realize that you had not made a loss. Moreover, when you looked at the other things that he usually did, you would realize that he did not put much thought into this. He had tricked the Minister of Revenue, who had dealt with finance for many years. No wonder the merchants of the great Tang were so afraid of him. Since there were no benefits to be had, then they would eat and drink as much as they could. The wine before them was made from grapes harvested from the northwest 4 years ago. It was said that after Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan tasted it, they were very satisfied. The taste was pure. Drink, the more you drink, the more you take advantage of it. Under the influence of such thoughts, Wang Bei drank until he was dizzy, but he still did not stop drinking. He had already drunk a bottle and a half of the 600 milliliters of wine. When the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family arrived at the hibiscus garden, all the people there were excited, and cheers rose and fell. Wang Bei tried his best to make his expression more gloomy, but because he had drunk too much, his face was flushed, and his spirit was stimulated by the alcohol. Because of their status, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan did not want to be too ostentatious in front of others, so they took a detour to Li Longji's seat. Xiao Bei's group puffed out their chests and held their heads high, insisting on walking in the center of the banquet. When they reached the seats of officials, they bowed slightly and cupped their hands in greeting. Everyone was an official, so Xiao Bei and the others would not kowtow out to others. Moreover, the officials could not take out too much New Year's money. As they walked, the officials smiled. Although Xiao Bei and the others were young, if they really offended them, they would turn around and investigate them. Basically, they would be caught with just one investigation. None of the officials who could sit in this position was clean. Happy New Year, Minister Wang. Minister Wang, you drank too much? You're even drinking bottled wine. Drink less. Alcohol is not good for the body. Xiao Bei took the lead and walked in front of Wang Bei. When he saw the bottle of wine next to the small table and the expression on his face, he kindly advised him. Last year, his elder brother had schemed against him. It was the new year, and for the sake of celebration, he would not cause trouble for the time being. Otherwise, he would appear too petty. Wang Bei also returned the greeting, feeling very awkward. The other party was clearly a child. Although he was much smarter than other children his age, a child was still a child. Even Xiao Yuan, a child prodigy with a photographic memory, felt uncomfortable looking at him. Children should not compare themselves with adults. Suppressing the unhappiness in his heart, Wang Bei said vengefully, "It's fine. The wine today is very good, especially the wine that your family brewed 4 years ago. I drank to my heart's content." Xiao Bei was stunned, then asked in confusion, if that's the case, why didn't official Wang take it home and slowly drink it? Today's banquet in the hibiscus garden was provided by my family. Each person was given 2 bottles of bottled wine, and all officials of the 5th rank and above had it. It was for you to take it home to drink. The wine that was brewed the year before last at the banquet was in barrels. I couldn't tell the difference between the 2 wines, but my elder brother and elder sister said that the wine from 4 years ago was better, so each person was given 2 bottles. Now that you've drunk so much, what are you going to take home? Aren't you going to let your family try it? After saying this, Xiao Bei sighed, shook his head, and continued to walk up. The head of the secretariat was at the top, and after him was Li Longji. Wang Bei saw that Xiao Bei and the others were talking to the Prime Minister again. He was already half sober. He looked at Jiangxin, an official of the Sinongxi Temple, and asked in astonishment, "Can this wine be taken home?" "Yes." Jiangxin nodded. His rank was not high. If not for the Sinongxi Temple's increasing importance in recent years, he would not have been able to stand beside Wang Bei. "Each person gets 2 bottles of this wine. I don't know when the same good wine will be brewed next time, so it's very precious." This official is reluctant to part with it and wants to keep it. However, this official admires official Wang's forthrightness and generosity. Wang Bei's forehead was clearly covered in sweat. He looked at the remaining half bottle of wine and asked, "How long can it be stored after opening the bottle?" It doesn't seem to be able to be stored for long. With the cold weather today, it should be possible to store it for 3 to 5 days. After all, the light bulb factory has the equipment to pump out the air. It should be able to be stored for a period of time after sucking out the air. This official has not done any research, but many crops should be able to be stored in vacuum. Jiangxin did not understand what Wang Bei meant, but still gave him an answer that he could think of. Hee, so that's how it is. I'm already dizzy from drinking. How about this? I'll give you the remaining half bottle. When you want to open the bottle, you can invite me to drink with you. How about that?" Wang Bei thought of an idea. Official Wang is joking. This official is not strong enough to drink today. I really can't drink anymore. My apologies. Jiangxin now knew what was going on with Wang Bei. He did not want to give away the wine in the future. If this wine was properly stored, its taste would become better and better, and the open bottle would be worthless. Wang Bei did not want to force it and sat back down dejectedly. Looking at the remaining wine, he did not know whether to drink or not to drink. He was extremely vexed. He drank too quickly and forgot to properly savor it. Xiao Bei did not care about what Wang Bei was thinking. At this time, she had already come to Li Longji's seat and knelt down. Then, she kowed out 3 times in a row and shouted, "Uncle Emperor, Xiao Bei wishes you a new year. I wish the great Tang a new year and wish Uncle Emperor a new year." Xiao Yuan and the others also knelt down and kowed out. Everyone had their own auspicious words. After kowtowing, they did not get up and looked up at Li Longji. Li Longji immediately felt immense pressure. This year's New Year's money was not easy to handle. Xiao Bei and the others had earned more than 4 million strings of cash this year, which was comparable to the great Tang's annual income at the beginning of the Kaiyuan era. With this kind of wealth, how much money would he have to give to match their status? Thus, Li Longji looked at Zhang Xiaobao, who had just turned around, asking how much money he had now. Chapter 1160. Zhang Xiaobao immediately looked up at the sky and muttered, "The moon is so round tonight." Li Longji also looked up. There was no moon, and he suddenly realized that today was New Year's Eve. If there was a full moon on New Year's Eve, what would happen on the 15th? Knowing that Zhang Xiaobao did not want to care, Li Longji lowered his head again and smiled at the children. "You all don't lack money. If I give you money, it will be too tacky. Why don't I change the method?" "Give what? Promotion?" Xiao Bei asked, still kneeling. "Promotion is even more tacky. Since it's for you all to celebrate the new year, I naturally need you all to be satisfied. Get up and discuss it slowly. How about that?" Li Longji took a step back in order to advance. "Great." Xiao Bei got up first, patted his pants, and stood to the side, looking for an opportunity to speak. Xiao Yuan and the others also stood in order. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Li Longji raised his wine glass, stood up, and said into the microphone, "New Year. Cheers to Yingchun." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his head and drank the wine in his glass. There were cheers and shouts all around. The main leaders had finished speaking. Everyone drank and ate as usual barbecued and spicy soup. Smoke filled the air. Anyway, it would be a waste if they did not eat. Tonight, the Zhang Xiaobao and Wang families would pay the bill. Food that could not be seen usually appeared today. Just Xiao Bei and the others contributed 10,016 headed abalone for tonight's dinner. These were wild abalone from Japan. Li Longji also ate the same. The 16-headed abalone was actually a little extravagant. He used it to make dumplings. After he finished speaking, he lowered his head and pondered about what to use as a substitute for New Year's money. The other officials were about to speak. One by one, they stood up and read out their manuscripts. The head of the Secretariat described the situation of the Tang Empire last year from a high country's point of view. He talked about how the country was prosperous and the people were at peace. The commoners listened happily, but they did not find it satisfying. Next was the Ministry of Rights. They talked about how the surrounding countries had come to court last year, including the small countries thousands of miles away. The commoners were proud that the Tang Empire had become stronger. Next was the Ministry of Justice. They talked about how much the law had been improved. The commoners were not interested. What did the trade law have to do with them? They were not in the export business. The fourth was the Ministry of Revenue. The moment they opened their mouths, they began to talk about the revenue of the Great Tang from 10 years ago. They explained year after year, and when they reached the point where they had more than 300 million strings of cash this year, the people in the hibiscus garden once more began to cheer. It was as if the country was rich, so were they. Next was the Ministry of Works. Zhang Zhong gave a brief introduction of the current research direction of the Ministry of Works. He skipped over the details that involved national secrets and talked about the cooperation with the Sinongsi and the Medical Academy in detail. When he was about to finish, he mentioned again that starting from the 5th day of the new year, all the people could bring their children to any of the precious candy houses to eat the candy that could get rid of the worms in their children's stomachs. It was just developed in October last year, so the people naturally applauded. Having worms in a child's stomach was a very uncomfortable thing. The folk remedies used in the past were not very effective. Now that the Medical Academy had developed a prescription, the effects should be pretty good. Furthermore, it was definitely free. It was just that they did not know why it was called candy. The Minister of Personnel, Pei Guangting, stood up with a straight face. He did not even need a script and directly told the people how many officials they had arrested last year and how many more they were planning to arrest this year. The people followed along and shouted that they wanted to kill the corrupt officials. The atmosphere was very good. Finally, it was the Minister of War, Xiao Song. He had a face full of grief and indignation, saying that the cannibals had invaded the northwest of the Great Tang. In fact, the border army had taken the initiative to go there, destroyed the Great Tang's farmland. There were usually barley crops that no one liked to eat, and occupied the Great Tang's mountains, snowy mountains. It was very cold. Even breathing was difficult. Normal people would not climb up. He then said that the Great Tang soldiers had guarded day and night. After many battles, they had finally suppressed the enemy and protected the Great Tang's peace. However, the cannibals had not given up on destroying the Great Tang, so now was not the time to enjoy it. At that time, they had been vigilant. Their desire to protect the Great Tang would never change. Even if they had to fight to the last soldier, they swore that today they would work together with everyone. Beat him. At this moment, Xiao Bei, who was chewing on a bone, suddenly shouted. Thus, the others followed and shouted as well. For a moment, the crowd was furious. The Celestial Empire had never been afraid of anyone. Especially in recent years, those who refused to obey had all been defeated. There was even someone who dared to threaten them. How could they not be taught a lesson? They had to let those people know how many eyes Ma Wangye had. Zhang Zhong glared at his daughter and said in a low voice, "Eat your food obediently. Do you want to see the world in chaos? Didn't we already say that we were going to beat him? Can't we shout a few times?" Xiao Yuan, let's have a meeting and think about what kind of New Year's money we want later. Xiao Bei was not very afraid of his father. The main reason was that Zhang Zhong was too relaxed. He was not as decisive as Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Xiao Bei only knew that he should respect his father. Several times, he wanted to remind his father not to keep a straight face. Later, he discovered that his father also kept a straight face when facing his older brother and sister, so he did not mention the suggestion. Even if he did, it would be useless. However, Zhang Zhong did not plan to let his daughter go immediately. He pressed down on Xiao Bei's head with one hand and pulled him over. At the same time, he picked up the snow-white silk handkerchief on the small table in front of Li Longji and wiped Xiao Bei's mouth. He reprimanded, "You're not steady even when chewing on a bone. Your face is covered in oil. What do you want others to think? What do you want Xiao Yuan to think? Girls are so impetuous." Xiao Bei closed his eyes and waited for his father to finish wiping. He then looked at the white silk handkerchief, which he could not tell whether it was Sichuan brocade or Sioux embroidery. He curled his lips and said, "This belongs to Uncle Emperor. Xiao Yuan, what do you think?" Xiao Yuan was stunned. His mind quickly turned. He suddenly grabbed the bone in Xiao Bei's hand and rubbed his face with it. Then he picked up the silk handkerchief on the small table and wiped his face. He said to Li Longji, "Uncle Emperor, I'm sorry. I've dirtied your things." Ha ha ha. Li Longji looked at Zhang Zhong and then looked at Xiao Yuan. Then he suddenly broke out in laughter. "You little brat, you have no future." Zhang Zhong slapped Xiao Yuan's head. "Is a man afraid of his wife still a man?" As soon as his voice fell, the Jiang Wang clan carried his daughter, Xiao Ru, over to Xiao Bei's side and said, "Listen to your father." After saying this, the Jiang Wang clan turned around and left. Zhang Zhong took a deep breath and then said in a louder voice to Xiao Yuan, "That's not a man. Men shouldn't be afraid. Respect each other. Do you understand? Respect each other. Do you understand? Properly experience it." Xiao Yuan nodded his head in understanding and replied, "I'm going through difficulties together. I don't dare to be alone. Your Majesty, I accidentally dirtied your 2 silk handkerchiefs. This official is guilty." Zhang Zhong did not continue talking to Xiao Yuan. He turned his head and spoke to the emperor in fear. Li Longji held back his laughter, and his face turned red. He waved his hand and squeezed out a voice from between his teeth, "It's fine, it's fine. Go and do your work. Xiao Bei, rub that big bone a few times for Uncle." "Ha ha ha, rub what?" "Take it back and cook it. There's still a lot of meat that hasn't been eaten yet. It's a pity to throw it away. I'll make some toothpick meat to eat later." "I can't have a mouthful of oil on it. Xiao Yuan, come with me." Xiao Bei took the 2 silk handkerchiefs that he used to wipe his mouth and ran to a basin of warm wine. He tossed them into the basin a few times and then gave one to Xiao Yuan. Then he wiped his face again. He couldn't wipe it clean just now. The officials had regained their composure. To be precise, they were not too agitated. Only the common people were not clear about the situation. When they heard the provocation of the people who ate many food, they wished they could personally rush over and kill a few to appease their anger. Who was the Tang Empire afraid of? Those who were not convinced would be defeated. What was the result of the Japanese causing trouble a few days ago? Didn't they cede territory and pay compensation? They were beaten up like bastards. They dared to make a fuss and sent over 1 million soldiers to flatten them. For the sake of dignity, the common people who came to the hibiscus garden made their own voices. Some said that if the soldiers pushed over, they would help to carry the cannonballs. Some said that it was cold and they were willing to donate clothes. After shouting for a while, the song and dance started. Everyone calmed down and watched the performance on the stage. As for the fight against the food, it was a small matter. They wanted to celebrate the new year first. Cuckoo hadn't moved yet, so it shouldn't be a problem for her to come to the border. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan stood at the side and watched with a smile. They didn't say anything, even when their father scolded their younger siblings. There was no need for them to say anything. Xiao Bei and the others were not interested in the song and dance. They gathered together to discuss what benefits they would get from the emperor later. They couldn't give him a New Year's greeting in vain. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan still quietly accompanied Li Longji. The two didn't want to mention other things during the new year and add to other people's worries. However, Li Longji couldn't stay still. When he saw Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, he always wanted to know more from them. When a skit about how life was getting better and better began to appear on the stage, he finally found the time to ask Zhang Xiaobao, "Xiaobao, what's a candy?" "It's a candy that looks like a small tower. It's sold in the candy house. There are all kinds of flavors and colors. No dye is used. Xiao Hai and Xiao Yuan also eat it themselves." Zhang Xiaobao looked away from the stage and answered, "It can treat diseases with worms in the stomach?" Li Longji had never eaten candy before, but he had seen Xiao Bei and the others eat it. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. "It can't be sold now. It was jointly made by the Medical College and the Ministry of Works. It has already been sent to various places in advance. It should reach the farthest places after the 5th day of the new year. It's a type of medicine." "Then why is it made into candy?" Li Longji asked again. "Because the children don't want to eat the medicine. Now, we're trying to make the medicine into big honey pills. If it doesn't work, we'll make it into water honey pills. If we can avoid boiling it, then we'll avoid boiling it. We also need to use the sugar coating technique." Zhang Xiaobao really didn't want to answer such a retarded question. Li Longji realized that he shouldn't have asked this question. He seemed too stupid. In fact, he wasn't asking about the taste of the candy. He had another purpose. "Xiaobao, is it useful for adults to eat it?" "It's useful. The worms don't matter to adults or children. Adults have fewer worms in their stomach. Eat according to the way children eat and increase the dosage." Zhang Xiaobao temporarily had to play the role of a doctor to explain to Li Longji, "How can this medicine make the worms disappear?" Li Longji didn't ask anyone else. He just stared at Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and asked. He knew that others didn't have this ability, but he could definitely get an answer from the two of them. As expected, Wang Wan said, "It's not that the worms disappear. It's that they are excreted through the digestive tract." Xiao Bao and I requested the Medical College and the Ministry of Works to develop this medicine specifically for the purpose of killing insects. Of course, it can also be used to kill people, but it can't be avoided. It's like smallpox. It's a basic part of the people's livelihood. Oh. Li Longji suddenly understood. That's right. How could he ask others as directly as he asked the two of them? It was as if everything was under his control. It was a pity that the two of them couldn't stay by his side forever. They had to make more important contributions to Great Tang. "It can be used on the battlefield?" Li Longji's eyes widened when he heard that it could be used to kill people. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan laughed at the same time. Zhang Xiaobao said, "There's no need for that. There's another thing on the battlefield that can take the form of a gas. If released with the wind, the enemy will die in large numbers. It's finally our turn to use it." Chapter 1161. Li Longji did not know what it was, but he guessed that it should be poisonous gas or smoke. Otherwise, there was no need to use it when the wind was blowing. Seeing the two of them smiling so sinisterly, the power of the weapon was definitely not small. "Be careful." Li Longji pondered for a moment and said seriously to Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao nodded. "Yes, it is usually placed in the warehouse under the cave. There is no one around for dozens of miles." "Since that is the case, I am relieved." Li Longji exhaled. He was really afraid that he would accidentally implicate the capital. So he asked, "What is the name of the medicine used to kill insects?" "It has to be different from the other tartans." "Replying to your majesty, it is called phosphopiperazine tartans." Zhang Xiaobao replied with a smile. He felt that the name was not bad. Wang Wan laughed as well. She knew that Zhang Xiaobao's only legitimate business in the past was the pharmaceutical factory. While he was earning money to maintain the operations of the pharmaceutical factory, he was also producing children's medicines and giving them to schools under various names. He even placed them in the infirmary. 2 people had even died because of this. The two people who had taken over the drug distribution of a city were the leaders of the City Health Bureau. They actually dared to take Zhang Xiaobao's medicine and sell it for money. Li Longji did not think that the name was good. He frowned and asked, "Why is it this name? I want to know why the name of the new medicine developed by the Medical Academy is always a mouthful." Replying to your Majesty, other than the names of the people who made the medicine, we changed the names of the researchers. The other names are the names of the system used together with the Ministry of Works. Other than the names, the symbols are also the same. The other medicinal materials are also named according to their original names, such as bezoar, cinnabar, and licorice. This is to make it easier for the medical staff to master the medicine. In the past, we also tried to write the words in the medical books in vernacular, otherwise it would look too vague. Now, we have everything, and there is no need to carve words on bamboo. We don't need to worry about wasting materials. For example, in our math problem, there is this. Today, there is a woman swinging a cup on the river. The scholar asked, "Why are there so many cups?" The woman said, "There are guests." The scholar asked, "How many guests?" The woman said, "2 people share a meal, 3 people share a soup, 4 people share a piece of meat." Do you not know how many guests there are? If a child wants to answer this question, they need to learn Chinese well. Otherwise, they won't be able to understand it. It's the same when you put it in medicine. The effects of a medicine can be explained in a few sentences. If you insist on making it sound so scholarly, it will affect the learning speed. Zhang Xiaobao explained why it had to be systematic and simplified. Wang Wan nodded as she listened. At that time, Chinese medicine was not very good. It was weak not because of the wrong philosophy, but because not many people could understand it. It was too difficult. It was not an isolated existence, but entangled with Chinese culture. Not to mention how much effort it took to learn Chinese medicine, just to understand Chinese culture. How many people dared to stand out and say that they understood it? Coupled with the impact of Western medicine and advanced equipment, traditional Chinese medicine was bound to be dormant for a period of time. As for the claim that traditional Chinese medicine could not cure diseases, it was purely a malicious attack. Didn't you see that many foreign athletes used Yunnan Baiyao spray? If only the learning of traditional Chinese medicine could be simpler. If only there was a machine that could simulate all kinds of pulse and the reactions of acupuncture points, it would be much easier to learn traditional Chinese medicine. Wang Wan's thoughts were flying. Li Longji was also thinking about Zhang Xiaobao's words. Then he nodded. Good system. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. Xiaobao, tell me, is there an elixir of immortality? Now that technology is so advanced, can we research it? Zhang Xiaobao felt that his heart had stopped. Now that technology is so advanced? Your Majesty, to be honest, in theory, there is, but I can't wait for that day. Your Majesty, this life. All right, you don't have to talk about principles with me. I'm just asking. Listen to the crosstalk. It's not easy to perform on stage in such a cold day. Listen carefully and don't let other people waste their time. Li Longji did not need Zhang Xiaobao to persuade him. He waved his hand and looked at the stage. It was not close, so he could not see clearly. However, the sound could be heard through the speakers. The people also tried their best to quiet down and listen to the crosstalk. Usually, they would not be able to see high-level performances from the pear garden. Moreover, they were eating and drinking for free now. Li Longji did not think there was anything funny about the crosstalk. It was not even as funny as Little Bei's serious storytelling. When he thought about Little Bei, Li Longji thought about the problem of red packets. He wondered if he should reward Little Bei with a house or something. He could not give Little Bei an official position or money. While he was thinking, the crosstalk ended, and the dance performance began. Little Bei and the group of children gathered again. Their faces were brimming with smiles of the new year. Li Longji immediately felt the spring breeze piercing his bones. Uncle Emperor, did you hear the crosstalk just now? It was so fun. I laughed until my stomach hurt. Little Bei was the first to come forward. He rubbed his stomach with one hand and burped. Perhaps his stomach hurt because he was full. I heard it. It was fun. I laughed until my head hurt. Li Longji smiled as well. Little Bei raised his hand and rubbed his head again. He seemed to empathize with Li Longji as he said, "That's right, that's right. My head hurts too. Uncle Emperor, I remember when we were in Luzhou, you said that you would allow us to open our precious candy house to Japan. Is that true?" "Yes." "Did you open it there?" Li Longji had long forgotten about it, but he pretended to remember. The children shook their heads regretfully at the same time. Little Bei said, "No. Japan is so poor that their children can't afford to eat cakes and other candies." However, after giving it some thought, in the spirit of internationalism and humanitarianism, we decided to open our precious candy house there. Then we thought about it. Since we can open a shop in Japan, can we open a shop in other places as well? Moreover, Uncle Emperor, you said that you would give us red packets. So, we made a request. What do you think? Li Longji stopped all his actions. His eyes were fixed on a certain spot as his mind raced. In Luzhou's opinion, it was only a joke when he said that he would allow Little Bei and the others to open their precious candy house in Japan. When the precious candy house saw that Japan had nothing to do with Great Tang, it did not matter whether they agreed or not. However, now that they suddenly brought it up, it would not be so simple. It was just like when they pooled their resources to open 4,000 shops. It was very smart for a group of children to gather together. After thinking for half a minute, Li Longji still could not think of a plan for the children. He did not agree immediately. Instead, he asked, "What request?" "Let's hear it." "It's very simple. Our precious candy house will be in charge of all goods that are related to children in Great Tang in the future. No one else is allowed to buy or sell these goods without permission. We don't want the goods from Great Tang. We'll use this as our red packets. Uncle Emperor, what do you think?" Little Bei blinked its big eyes and gestured with its hands as it looked at Li Longji expectantly. When Li Longji heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief. He thought it would be a difficult problem. It was just the business of buying and selling children's goods. What kind of business could they do outside Great Tang? As Little Bei had said, Japan was extremely poor. The other islands were even worse off than Japan. How could they make money outside? A child was a child, after all. Li Longji was disappointed that the child did not come up with a good idea. He nodded. Just as he was about to agree, Zhang Xiaobao suddenly spoke. "No, change it." "Why?" "Change. Change it to the right to set the price. Okay?" Little Bei pouted and made another request. "No." Just as Li Longji was about to agree, Zhang Xiaobao vetoed it. "You still can't? Then it's the right to audit the goods that are related to the import and export of children." Little Bei changed another request. "No." Zhang Xiaobao still did not agree. Li Longji couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Xiaobao, look at Little Bei and the others. It's not like they have it easy. Besides, this is a matter of the outside world, not Great Tang itself. What's wrong with that? Cuckoo, don't you agree? How can an older brother bully a younger brother and sister?" Li Longji looked for Wang Wan to form an alliance. Wang Wan's eyebrows shot up. After a moment of hesitation, she said, "The benefits involved are too great. It's impossible for a single family to monopolize it. How about this? 50% of the children's goods, including raw materials, semi-finished products, and finished products, will be given to you." "Wait a moment." Little Bei turned around and ran off to discuss with the others. Li Longji looked back and forth between Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan in astonishment. He didn't understand why the two of them had changed their usual indulgence toward their younger brother and sister. Could it be that there was a reason behind the conditions that Little Bei and the others had proposed? After a while, Little Bei turned around and looked at his brother and sister. He smiled shyly and said, "Okay, we agree. However, in order to ensure that the children of Great Tang and international children can eat and use things that they can be assured of, we need to set up a catalog of children's products and set up a supervision committee. At the same time, we need to set up a quota for merchants. There will be 3 teams and 1 team. For the time being, there will be 19 people. I feel that this matter, no. Before Li Longji could finish a sentence, Zhang Xiaobao rejected him again and said, of the 19 people, you've already taken up 10 of them. With the addition of the 4 younger ones, you'll have 14 people in the future. All 3 groups will be yours. The catalog of children's products will be set up in Great Tang's import and export control system. We won't give it to you. You can join the supervision committee, but your precious candy house can only take 1 spot. The quota for merchants will be calculated once a year. The number and capital of merchants involved in children's products will be rearranged. Just wait. Little Bei had no choice and went back to study. Li Longji asked softly, Xiaobao Cuckoo, is the matter that Little Bei proposed very profitable? I understand the power, but there doesn't seem to be any place with money outside of Great Tang. Why won't they agree to the children? At first, it sounds like it's just a matter of children's products. Your Majesty, do you know how many aspects are involved in children's products? There are rules for the finished products, but what about the raw materials? If the flour used to make a cake is labeled as a child's product, who can guarantee that all the flour will be used to make a child's cake? For example, silk used to make clothes, porcelain used to make children's tableware, and vice versa. Wang Wan took over and explained to Li Longji. Li Longji swallowed hard and nodded slowly. So they're not stupid. I almost fell into their trap. I blame myself for not learning from my mistakes. Xiao Bei came back again and said helplessly, all right, but we request that the import and export price of other merchants' products cannot be lower than the price of our similar products. This similar product is set based on the materials that are 70% similar. Otherwise, if they change it, it won't be able to become a similar product. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head and said, we'll calculate according to the proportion of the cost of the raw materials. Darling Candy House includes the cost of the brand, so we can't ask other merchants according to the actual price. I knew it would be like this. We've already thought about it. The calculation of the cost of the raw materials is based on the specific situation of the goods in Great Tang and the audit conditions in the laws and regulations. Little Bei immediately followed up. It seemed that everyone had worked hard just now. Now that the opponent was Big Brother, it was no longer easy to fool him. Zhang Xiaobao said, we'll have to calculate according to the actual tax. Why? Our darling candy house is exempt from taxes. Yes, the cost is low, but we've paid in other aspects. The tax exemption is an exchange, right? According to this, they've lowered the price. When it comes to the outside world, people don't know darling candy house like they do in Great Tang. The products are more or less the same. Whoever has a lower price will have an easier time selling. Also, the new products that we've researched ourselves, they'll steal it. I don't care. I want to add all the research fees to the cost, including the design fees for the few of us. In the past, it was just dividends. Now, we're asking for a position and a salary. Little Bei couldn't take it anymore. Her eyes were red and she was about to cry. All right, let's not talk about taxes. But if you're too harsh on them, they won't be willing to go out and open up the market. In the future, whoever opens up the market will enjoy a certain amount of benefits and initiative. Zhang Xiaobao didn't continue to negotiate. He chuckled and took a big step back. Wang Wan hugged Little Bei and glared at Zhang Xiaobao. She comforted her sister. Your brother is used to being in the right state of mind when talking about business. He doesn't care who his opponent is. Our Little Bei is still the best. You know so much. Everyone discussed it together. If I had known earlier, I would have found a chance to talk to Uncle Emperor alone. Little Bei blinked her eyes, and her tears disappeared. Your Uncle Emperor is easy to fool, right? Now you know that there's an expert by my side, right? When the time comes, other merchants will gang up to bully you. Let's see what you can do. Li Longji said to Little Bei with a smile. Little Bei rolled her eyes and pursed her lips tightly. She shook her head at Wei Wei with a smug look on her face. There's something I don't understand. Crown Prince Li Hong, who had been listening for a long time, finally couldn't help but ask. When he asked, he looked at Little Bay. "Brother Crown Prince, please ask." Little Bay was still very polite. "Outside of Great Tang, are there any children who buy your products? They're so backward." Li Hong asked the question in his heart. The best way to make adults spend money is to start with the children. The best way to make a country fall is to start with the children's classes. The best way to make a nation prosper is to first ensure the health and education of the children. This is what Big Brother and Big Sister said in the story. Thus, our darling candy house's 4,000 chain stores are always paying attention to the children of Great Tang. Little Bay shook her head and explained. Li Hong took a deep breath and nodded. "I understand. Let me ask you one more question. What do you use to settle the bill?" "If they have their own currency, we'll use their money to settle the bill." Little Bay said. "What if they issue a large amount of currency?" Li Hong asked again. "Then they're dead. At that time, it won't be my darling candy house that does it, but the other departments of Great Tang that do it. Foreign trade is not isolated. Any business conducted in another country has the support of their own country." Two dimples appeared on Little Bay's face. Chapter 1162. Li Hong was deeply impressed, and a hint of jealousy welled up in his heart. He wondered why he didn't have anyone to tell him all kinds of stories all day long, why the servants around him didn't have any other abilities apart from flattering him, and why his teachers always taught him different ways of being a ruler. Why did Xiao Bei and the others have to deal with politics and economics every day? If he had received the same education when he was young and lived in the same environment, would he still need to worry about the position of Crown Prince? After looking at Xiao Bei for a while, Li Hong sighed softly and didn't say anything else. Li Longji also sighed and said to Xiao Bei, "In that case, Uncle Emperor has given out all the New Year's money, right?" Yes, it's all given out." "Hee, Uncle Emperor is the best." Xiao Bei replied with a big smile. "It's the easiest to deceive, right? Taking advantage of the fact that I'm not in the right state today, you set up a trap for me to fall into. How should I punish you?" Li Longji's face stiffened as he glared at Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei hurriedly ran out of his sister's embrace and went to Li Longji's side. He grabbed Li Longji's arm and shook it. "No, I didn't lie to Uncle Emperor. Everything can be discussed. How about what we just said doesn't count? We don't want the New Year's money anymore, okay? You're still playing the game of retreat in order to advance with me. You bunch of brats don't always think about scheming against the people in Great Tang. Use your little tricks in this aspect. Why are you bullying merchants in terms of policy? Just tell me directly, and if I agree, the other merchants won't even have a chance to refute. Isn't it easy for you to take control of the situation? You're the Great Tang's patrol envoy, so who dares to disobey you? Isn't bullying merchants a piece of cake? Even the censorate is afraid of you." Li Longji stroked Xiao Bei's head and said slowly. Xiao Bei pouted. "The censorate is afraid of my brother and sister, but who in the world is afraid of me? Only my family is afraid of me. They're afraid that I won't be able to eat well, wear warm clothes, and have fun. The corporations that worked with our precious candy house were moved by our plan in the end. But if it wasn't because of the power behind us, they would have eaten us alive long ago. Being born in such a family, if we do the right thing, people will say that it's because the adults taught us well. If we do something wrong, people will say that we're insensible and useless. Uncle Emperor, don't you think that we're pitiful? Pitiful, truly pitiful." Li Longji pondered for a moment and found that this was indeed the case. The most pitiful thing is not in the Great Tang, but in the outside world. In the Great Tang, they're afraid of us, but in the outside world, we won't be able to monitor them. Because of their psychological discomfort, they'll specifically target our precious candy house. Do you think this is possible? Unless we have a little more power and arrange people in their business. One is to help them, and the other is to monitor them. Since there are no powerful countries outside, why can't we patrol outside? Am I right? Xiao Bei blinked her naturally long eyelashes and looked up at the sky in anticipation. Hearing this, Li Longji felt that this was indeed the case. He deeply agreed with Xiao Bei's words and nodded. Then send someone to keep an eye on them. Don't let them do anything that will disgrace the dignity of the Great Tang. Since the Great Tang can interfere, how can the outside world not interfere? I order you to be the inspector of the Great Tang and keep an eye on the outside world. Thank you, Uncle Emperor. Uncle Emperor is really too kind. Xiao Yuan, tell them that Uncle Emperor has been promoted with us. He can also manage outside matters. Xiao Bei happily jumped up and kissed Li Longji. She cupped her hands into the shape of a trumpet and shouted to Xiao Yuan and the others who were not too far away. Thus, the group of children came over to express their gratitude. After chatting for a while, they formed a group and went elsewhere to look for food. Li Longji was also happy for a while. After the children left, he turned around to look at Zhang Xiaobao and found that he was competing with a piece of spine. He was using both hands, but he still hadn't removed the meat from the bone. Just looking at him made one anxious. Xiaobao, do you want to eat meat? Li Longji felt that the time Zhang Xiaobao wasted eating the bone could be exchanged for a lot of meat. During this time, his family's business had already earned him over 1,000 strings of coins. Even a spine made of gold was not worth it. No, I'm grinding my teeth. Zhang Xiaobao raised his head and glanced at Li Longji before continuing to fight with the bone. Why are you grinding your teeth? Li Longji's teeth involuntarily moved as he asked. Biting people. It wasn't easy to stop the monopoly. In the end, with a single order, everything before this was completely nullified. With this kind of official authority, what's the point of talking about conditions? I've exhausted my younger brothers and sisters. Right now, I have no choice but to admit that diplomacy is an art. Public relations is a profound study. Zhang Xiaobao switched to another bone and gnawed on it. Wang Wan was also swirling the wine in her cup at the side. She echoed, subduing the enemy without fighting. This is probably how it came to be. A person who can turn the tide when the enemy is at a disadvantage is definitely a godlike diplomat. Xiao Bao's education is very successful. Li Longji pondered for a moment before asking, shouldn't we have agreed to increase Xiao Bei's position? Why didn't you say so earlier? That's this subject's younger sister. It's wrong to always point the gun at one's own people. Zhang Xiaobao finally put down the bone and sucked on his fingers like a child. Li Longji's mouth also wrapped around Zhang Xiaobao's actions. He said, it's the new year, yet you didn't let us be happy for once. Your family just had to come over and scheme against us. We asked you to come over to eat and drink with us. Is the country more important, or is your family more important? You clearly knew that your younger sister was scheming against her uncle emperor, yet you didn't stop her. How can someone who doesn't love their family love their country? Zhang Xiaobao said. He then continued, this subject believes that whether your majesty is happy or not depends on the well-being of the commoners. Other than that small problem this year, there are only a few houses in the north that were crushed by the snow. Everyone is fine, and the commoners' income has increased. The main reason is that they can now have more resources. How can your majesty not be happy? Could it be that your majesty doesn't care about the commoners of Great Tang? You don't have to say such useless things to me. Let me ask you, Xiaobao, why didn't you remind me earlier? At the very least, I could have made a deal with Xiao Bei and the others, right? Li Longji didn't keep referring to himself as your majesty. Zhang Xiaobao wiped his hands and said, if I reminded my younger sister again, she would really cry. It's one thing to not let her have what she wants, but it's another thing to let her have what she wants. The former means that you don't care about her, while the latter means that you don't care about what you want. I'm just lamenting. Humans aren't machines, so they can be influenced by others. The retired elders of the Great Tang can become diplomats, so that they won't be bored out of their minds. I can open a diplomatic class. When I'm training the army in Jianghu, I'll just be coordinating with them and have some free time. You're good at diplomacy? Li Longji didn't realize it. In his impression, Xiao Bao had always been good at scheming. Compared to Cuckoo, Xiao Bao's lethality was even greater. When Wang Wan heard Li Longji's words and saw Li Longji's expression, she roughly understood what he was thinking. She shook her head helplessly. This was Xiao Bao's true strength. He could make people think that he was a slick person to others, but sincere to them. Wasn't diplomacy good enough? This was the highest level of diplomacy. Without this ability, how could Xiao Bao have deceived people back then? If not for Xiao Bao's boundless loyalty to the entire nation, she wouldn't have been able to resist killing him. He was too dangerous. In the future, I can deal with people patiently and peacefully. I think I can do it, Zhang Xiaobao said sincerely. Okay, we agree. Li Longji nodded in agreement. After a while, Xiao Bei and the others still hadn't returned. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had no choice but to go look for them personally. They were afraid that the guards would be tired to death if their younger siblings went out to have fun with the commoners. After the two left, Gao Lisher asked Li Longji softly, "Your Majesty, since it's like this, why don't you take back the appointment? It's the new year. Let Xiao Bei and the others be happy. During this year, they're also very tired from running around everywhere. They still have to study and think of ways to come up with new candies and pastries. Every time there's a festival, they don't forget to ask the candy house to give them something for free. When we agreed, just now we thought it through. They have too much power. After thinking about it again, could it be that they have too little power now? There's no official in our dynasty who isn't afraid of them, but have they ever used their power to do anything bad? They just like the feeling of being an official. They don't need the position to raise their status. Who would dare to offend the younger siblings of Xiao Bao and Cuckoo? If you glare at them during the day and make them cry, you won't be able to sleep peacefully at night. Let's not talk about others. Among the 6 ministries, other than Zhang Zhong, would any of the other 5 go against Xiao Bei and the others? They're willing to argue with Zhang Zhong, and they're not afraid to directly criticize Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. But would they dare to make Xiao Bei and the others cry? It doesn't matter how much power Xiao Bei and the others have. What's important is how Xiao Bao and Cuckoo usually educate them. All right, let's watch the performance. It's the eve of the Lunar New Year. It's a festive occasion. After speaking with Gao Lisher, Li Longji turned back to watch the magic show on the stage. Even though he was far away, he still looked like he was enjoying it. Gao Lisher didn't say anything else. Since His Majesty already understood, there was no need to mention it. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan hadn't returned yet, but Xiao Bei and the others had turned around from the other side. It was obvious that they had walked in the wrong direction. Uncle Emperor, I'll give you some pears. Someone gave us frozen autumn pears. It's more than 20 caddies. We can't finish them all. Here, have a taste. Xiao Bei held the handle of a pear in one hand and ran over with his arms raised. Oh, who was so kind as to give us pears? Li Longji took one and took a big bite. He saw the way Xiao Bei pinched the pear and knew that the pear was soaked in ice and washed with water, so it wasn't dirty. What kind of person? This year, the pears in his family's forest couldn't be sold for a good price. This year the weather's good, so he arranged for people to give them to us for free outside the hibiscus garden. He put up an advertisement, and when he saw us, he said that all the pears would be given to our precious candy house for free. I don't believe him. If he really had such intentions, why didn't he send them to school? Xiao Bei said like a shrew. Oh, then you're taking advantage of the situation? Li Longji took another bite of the pear and asked with a smile. Me? Xiao Bei pointed at himself. I, Zhang Xiaobei, am so poor that I'm hoping to take advantage of this? Oh my God, I'm so tasteless. What's tasteless? Li Hong interjected. Taste. I'm trying to see if the frozen pears this year taste good. Usually, frozen pears are eaten by the poor, but my brother and sister said that frozen pears are like frozen grapes. They don't lose much of their nutrients. You might not know about frozen grapes, but do you know about white wine? It's the wine made from grapes that aren't red on the inside and are whiter after the skin is removed. Little Nan said that when she went to Luzhou, she found that the weather was very hot. The frozen pears that we don't like to eat here must be delicious in the south. She put them on a few train cars and sent them to the coastal area in the south for the children to taste. She can buy 500,000 caddies of pears for free. Xiao Bei picked up a pear in the basin that Xiao Yuan was holding and waved it for Li Hong to see. At this moment, Li Hong suddenly felt very sad. He clearly knew that Xiao Bei and the other children would not take advantage of others for free, but he could not think of how to help the people who grew the pears. It seemed that he had not learned enough. Xiao Bei and the others must have taken this knowledge as common sense, so they did not explain it in detail. They thought that others would know. Xiao Bei, how many pears are there in the north this year? Ah, Brother Crown Prince, you don't know? This year, there are more than 3 million caddies of pears in our Jiangxi province in autumn alone. There are even more in the north of Hebei province, 6 times more than in Jiangxi province. The original trees have been cut down and used as firewood. The pears that were planted are all rotten and can't be transported out. We plan to gather all the frozen autumn pears in Jiangxi province, Guanyi province, and Hedong province. It'll be easier to sell them that way. We'll help them. It's not easy for them either. Xiao Bei pointed to the east, which was the north of Hebei province. Li Hong felt that he could match what he learned. So he said, "Is it because the price of the winter-autumn pears increased when there were 500,000 caddies less? After you transported them away, not only did they not lose money, but they also made a profit? How is that possible? We only transported 1/10 of the goods. 1/10 of the goods can raise the price of a good, but it's not the only one. Who can eat the frozen autumn pears now doesn't know the price. If the price is high, people won't buy it because they understand that in less than 2 months, the frozen autumn pears won't be frozen anymore." That's right. How do you know so clearly? Li Hong admitted that Xiao Bei was right, but he wondered about Xiao Bei's knowledge. I'm telling stories to your younger siblings. How can I not learn more common sense? The process of telling stories is also a process of learning. We're starting to have work to do now, and there are younger siblings. Xiao Bei opened her eyes wide and looked into the distance, but the feeling she gave people had absolutely nothing to do with depth. It was only cute. Moreover, her eyelashes were still long, and when she blinked, it seemed like her eyes were misty. Li Hong suddenly felt uncomfortable for a moment. What he was most afraid of was hearing about his younger brother. Li Jun, the first prince, and Pan, the first daughter of the first wife, would be the first princess in the future. If Li Jun didn't exist, or if he died, wasn't it too incompetent to think like that? Using other people's deaths to build his own foundation. If he really did it himself, the next one to die would definitely be him. Without waiting for Imperial Father to do anything, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan would kill him first, and they wouldn't need any actual evidence. Being afraid meant that he was incompetent. Big Brother Crown Prince, what's wrong with you? Say something. Xiao Bei's voice woke Li Hong up. Will you suffer any losses when you transport them? Yes, it will cause a lot of damage to the ship because we need to put ice. Our ice isn't worth much now, so we can get it anywhere. Xiao Bei nodded and admitted. Then wouldn't the autumn pears be frozen if we use ice? Frozen autumn pears, they'll be damaged if they're not frozen. Big Brother Crown Prince, what are you thinking? Yes. That is to say, the people who plant the pears can increase their income by several times, right? Big Brother Crown Prince, you're not in the right state today. How can there be several times of income? We'll help deliver them first, and there will be merchants buying them immediately to sell them. Unless the pear growers are organized, they won't be able to increase their income by several times. We don't want the pear growers to become rich this year. We just want them to earn a little more this year and a little more next year. There won't be a situation where they can't sell them and they'll rot. Our goal is to maintain a relative balance, not to promote the value of goods in an area and increase the income of the local people by several times. If they earn more, they will definitely lose income from purchasing, transporting, and selling. How do we put it? It's so annoying. I actually understand the meaning behind it, but how do I put it? Xiao Chang continued, we're not the county magistrate of a county in the north or northwest. We're not in charge of the specific income of a county. As long as they don't have any difficulties in destroying the goods, we won't bother. No matter who earns more money in the end, as long as they pay taxes, our actions aren't useless. If they use tricks to evade taxes, that's the Ministry of Revenue's problem. Once we find evidence, we won't directly pursue the merchant's responsibility, but impeach the Ministry of Revenue. Yes, that's it. Li Hong couldn't say anything else, so he could only say, all right, I'll think of a way to help. At least let others invest more, such as my other brothers and sisters. Chapter 1163. At dawn, when the rooster crowed in the distance, the people who had been busy the whole night finally started to pack up and go home. The unfinished food had to be packed up and brought home. Otherwise, who would eat the leftover food? Many of the officials who came to Hibiscus Garden were already sleepy, but they forced themselves to stay awake. On the other hand, the commoners were still full of energy and were reluctant to end the evening party. The young men and women who had just met and chatted well with each other had eyes full of melancholy and expectation. They wanted to open their mouths and say something to each other, but they held back. But no matter what, there was no such thing as a banquet that lasted forever. The crowd gradually dispersed, and some people kept looking back. Although there was still a banquet on the 15th, it was definitely not the turn of those who had participated in the evening party on the 30th. Gone, gone, gone. Xiao Hong, who had just learned to speak for less than 3 months, was being carried by a maid. Her little finger pointed at the leaving crowd and spoke incoherently. After crying, she watched the program and wanted to learn how to speak and sing. After a while, she also wanted to watch others eat. She also wanted to eat meat skewers sprinkled with chili powder. She held them in her hands and stuffed them into her mouth. She chewed them with her pitiful little teeth and spat them out. It was so spicy that she cried. She chopped a small piece of fatty meat without chili powder and put it in her mouth. Only then did she reveal a happy smile. Li Longji, who also didn't persist to the end, saw Xiao Hong's appearance and said to Zhang Xiaobao, who was still in good spirits, Xiao Hong is also quite pitiful. If she didn't meet Xiao Bei and the others, what would she be like? She would be less than the current 4,000 baby candy house chain stores. Zhang Xiaobao's irrelevant answer diluted the sadness in Li Longji's heart. He meant to tell him that he didn't need to worry anymore. Xiao Bei and the others had already taken on the responsibility of the survival of the children in Tang Dynasty. Yes, yes. When you give others happiness, you are also happy, except when you are cheated. For example, I am happy. Li Longji was still thinking about how he fell into the trap last night. Boa. Xiao Hong, who heard the noise, reached out her chubby little hand and called out to Li Longji. Li Longji knew that she was calling him uncle, so he happily reached out to take it and carefully planted a kiss on her cheek. If he wasn't careful, he might accidentally knock off her fake ear. Xiao Hong was not big enough now, so her ears were fixed with a rope. When she was big enough, she could punch holes around her ears and wear them like earrings. Being hugged by Li Longji, Xiao Hong was delighted. She stretched out her hand to grab Li Longji's beard and smiled. I heard you crying just a moment ago, but now you're smiling. Xiao Bao, don't you think it's fun? Li Longji tilted his head and asked Zhang Xiaobao, who was staring at Xiao Hong. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and said, yes, when we were young, we cried and laughed. When we grew up, we laughed and cried. We are all in the mortal world. Xiaobao, why do you think people cry? Li Longji suddenly asked. It's probably for a better smile. Zhang Xiaobao gave the answer. We understand. If I ask you again why people laugh, you will say that it's for the sake of crying in the future, right? Li Longji said helplessly. Your Majesty is wise. Zhang Xiaobao praised the emperor with a serious expression. Li Longji didn't want to bother with the liar Zhang Xiaobao anymore. He carried Xiaohong and said that he was going to make porridge for her before strolling away. At this time, Wang Wan came over and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Why didn't you tell him that people cry because they want to vent their emotions?" Venting emotions is a function, not the source. How would I know? The knowledge that we have access to is still unclear. It's like asking how the universe and the origin of mankind came about. If I could explain it, I would be a god. Amit Ba'ala. Zhang Xiaobao made a cross in front of him. "You've already stepped on God. You're better than God. Come, let's go home. Xiao Bei and the others are still asleep. We have to get someone to carry them back. Let's go back and take a nap." Wang Wan rubbed her face with her hands and walked towards the parking lot. Zhang Xiaobao followed behind her and even looked at the soles of his shoes. He wondered, could it be that God exists in a two-dimensional space? "I'm stepping on my shadow." You can't step on shadows. They always float on the surface. As long as there's light, hurry up and walk. Can you see science from looking at the soles of your shoes? Do you have anti-skid patterns? Wang Wan urged. Okay, this shows that God is in the shadow. Because God said that there must be light. A world without God is really pitiful. They don't have shadows. Zhang Xiaobao chased after her. The days of the new year were hectic and tiring. They smiled at everyone they saw, and smiling too much was also a burden. The stewards kept arranging the gifts. They gave an electric heater to one family, an electric fan to another, and 2 flashlights to Uncle Wang, who worked the night watch at night. They gave light bulbs to make it easier for the children to study. When they found that they didn't have wires, they hurriedly set up poles and gave them electric meters. Then they started to pay the electricity bill. The electricity meter was slow and fast, and it was torturous. In addition to giving gifts, they also received gifts. Minister Wang of the Ministry of Revenue sent a writing brush. There was no ink, so they didn't know what it meant. Was it to write off the past or to keep it in mind? It all made sense. So stingy. Minister of Revenue? What's the hair on the writing brush? No matter how I look at it, it looks like pig's hair. It's just right for the door paint. Let's give it to our sister, Xiao Zhu. She should also try oil painting. Zhang Xiaobao touched the hair on the writing brush and said with a crooked mouth, "What nonsense are you talking about? This is his grandson's fetus writing brush. It was made by our shop. There are 6 in total. He sent one." Wang Wan rolled her eyes at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao was surprised. His child is born? That's fast. Premature birth. Cesarean section. It was done in the medical school. He didn't even go to the hospital. That's why people say that it's good to be a high official. The deputy director personally performed the operation. Mother and child are safe. If it was in the past, the child would have died. Wang Wan told Zhang Xiaobao about the child. It was unknown whether she was lamenting the privilege of being an official or praising her family for establishing the medical school. Zhang Xiaobao finally understood what Wang Bei meant. Without Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Bei, there would be no medical school. Without the medical school, there would be no child. Therefore, he accepted the favor of sending a fetus writing brush over. That's too much merit. How many people has the medical school saved? It seems that I can't let my sister continue to paint oil paintings. Let's paint gouache. It's easier to clean the brush with gouache than with paint. Draw a pair of angels according to our appearance. They have wings on their backs, halos on their heads, and sticks in their hands. If anyone disagrees, we'll hit them hard on the head. Let's give them royal jelly in return. The best royal jelly in the world is produced in the 100,000 mountains. In order to give the bees more choices, we planted many flowers in Luzhou that were moved from other places. Although some died because they couldn't adapt to the climate. Zhang Xiaobao decided to give the child and mother something good to eat. When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, she sighed and asked, "Where's the best honey in the world? Do you know Turkey and Yemen?" Now that you mention it, I remember. Yemen Province and Turkey Province have the best honey production in our country. Don't you have any shame? Wang Wan interrupted Zhang Xiaobao. All right, I admit that I'm biting off more than I can chew. It's too difficult to go to Turkey by land. If we go by sea, the canal between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea hasn't been opened yet. We'll have to take a long detour. Let's be more practical and choose Yemen. We'll just take a boat to the Gulf of Aden. But I promise that our son and daughter will be able to eat the honey of Turkey Province. They can also swim in the river that plays the Mantua bell for me in the province to the west of Tang. Zhang Xiaobao was planning for the future without blushing at all. Wang Wan really didn't know what to say. She could only agree helplessly. I'll wait for you to occupy the Rhine River. We'll go swimming when we have nothing to do. The spring festival only ended after the 15th day of the first lunar month. Everyone went back to work, worked, and taught privately. As for the dragon raises its head on the second day of the second lunar month. Those who had the time to do some small-scale entertainment was enough. At the end of the second lunar month, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan packed their luggage and prepared to leave. This year, the upper reaches of the Yellow River had already melted. The place where the word was formed was still a little icy and very dangerous. If it was in the past, the local people would have evacuated. If they didn't leave now, they would be drowned by the flood. But now, when the local people saw that the ice had not melted and the icy water was rushing down from the upper reaches, they were as happy as if they were celebrating a festival. This was because the artillery of Tang was about to fire. Using artillery shells to smash the ice was the best method. The efficiency was 100 times higher than directly drilling holes in the ice. The latter required a lot of gunpowder. Also, the people drilling holes were also dangerous. The ice surface was too big and the ice layer was too thick. The kinetic energy of a fixed-point explosion was obviously not enough. Thus, using artillery was the best method. Standing outside the warning line, the people watched the artillery fire fly past and listened to the sounds. They felt that it was much more enjoyable than setting off firecrackers. The ground shook along with it. The little boys looked at the artillery with admiration. However, they couldn't get close to touch the artillery. This thing was much more powerful than the bows and arrows they made. If they could get one and carry it with them, Tian Laoqi's dog next to the school would no longer be a threat. When the ice on the Yellow River flowed away, Zhang Xiaobao and the rest also set off against the current. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.